Welcome back to another episode of The Market Open. We are live. It is Friday, July 10th. Thank you all for being here. I love this comment right here that literally predicted exactly what the first sentence would be to start off the show. Has it become that predictable? It's good morning. Welcome back to another episode of The Market Open. Is it that predictable? I need to switch it up now and have some new intros to start off the show. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It's Friday. It's been a quick week, to be honest. It's felt like a long week, but it's been a quick week. And we are already done with the first week of trading into July as we get into July 10th, as we end out the week. We got about 3 weeks left. Next week, we got bank earnings. The week after that, we start tech. And the last week of July is going to be the craziest week in terms of tech earnings. Meta, Microsoft, Robinhood, all those different names that we've got. Lots of different headlines that have happened this week. Some of them geopolitical that have been kind of important, but not really important. We thought they were important for a little bit, then they weren't. Oil's up a little bit right now in the pre-market. Many more headlines AI related, particularly around Meta, which will be a big topic of discussion today. Everyone can see the stock in the pre-market. It is surging. This has been one of those names where you've had to be a little contrarian throughout the entire year because it has really decimated a lot of portfolios if this is your core Mag 7 exposure. Especially as it went down to the 520 range back in March, came all the way back to almost 700. It was like 690, then came all the way down back to 550 in the pre-market. It's at 654. So there's a lot of different narratives that are surrounding this stock that have a lot of implications for the broader AI sector. We talked yesterday, Meta signed a deal with SanDisk, and I think that's why SanDisk had that 10% move that they had yesterday. SK Hynix will be listing today, so we'll be talking about that and the implications it has on the memory trade. But overall, it's been a very exciting week to sort of start off July. And I think all the fears and hesitations around the AI bubble or that CapEx narrative that were present are still there. It's not like they're not relevant. A lot of the semi stocks have not got back to their all-time highs. But with the latest announcements over the past couple of days, particularly from Meta and a variety of other companies that are doubling down on either equity issuances or levering up with debt and bond, aka Amazon with $25 billion, it makes you remember that this CapEx thesis that is holding up the entire economy is pretty strong. And as long as that continues to be strong, then the market should continue to also be strong. So we'll talk a lot about that as we get into it. And we will get into everything that is happening today. Good morning, good morning, good morning. We haven't done this in about 3 weeks. So let's do this to start off the show today. Where are you watching from? Where are you watching from? Put it in the chat. What city, what town, what country? I'm sure we'll have tons of North Koreas, tons of your basements. But besides those, where are you watching from? Laura, good morning. I like the routine and knowing what you're going to say. Good. It's one of those things that it's like I have this relationship with other creators as well. It's like just knowing that they're going to be there and they're going to kind of go through the routine helps me with my routine. So that is fair that people like the sort of predictability of it. Gene, what's up? Jared, what's up? Costas, Chad, good morning to you. Wow, another person. Jessica, I love the predictable opening sentence. All right, so we're going to have to keep it predictable. Now I want to switch it up a little bit. But if I switch it up, it's going to be weird. It's probably going to feel weird. I'm probably going to stutter on my words when I try to even open up the show because I've been doing it for like 4 years with the exact same sentence, you know? It's kind of like opening the show at 8:46 or 8:47 every morning. I've been doing it 4 years in a row. I say 8:45, but it's 8:46, so you just kind of have to do it at that point. It would be weird if I showed up at 8:45. We got Sam from Maine. We got Krunal from Mumbai. I love it. We got Mark from Portugal. We got Crimson from Northeast Canada. We got Germany in the chat. We got a lot of Germanys. We got Saudi Arabia, California, Vegas, New York City, Pennsylvania. Taiwan. I love it. Taiwan in the house. I've always wanted to visit Taiwan, especially after seeing Alex Honnold climb up Taipei 101. It was absolutely crazy. So hopefully one day we get to visit as well. We got Greece. We got Addicted to Trading, St. Petersburg, Florida, Thailand. We got a lot of Saudi Arabias right here. New York City, Palo Alto. Elaine says, my van's somewhere on a highway in Colorado. Elaine, are you on vacation? I feel like Elaine is taking a nice little road trip, and she deserves to. But Elaine, thank you for being here and being part of the show as well. Belgium. Oh, by the way, France, semifinals now, 2-0 last night. The game tomorrow is, what's the game tomorrow? Spain and Belgium tomorrow. Oh, no, that's today at 3 p.m. Okay. Norway and England is tomorrow. I'm actually invested now in the World Cup, so it's going to be exciting to see how this plays out over the next few weeks. We got Dubai, we got Philippines, we got New Hampshire, Colorado, South Korea, North Carolina, Romania, Denmark. Thank you all for being here. Excited to be back. First week back on the show from the break. And it's never a dull or boring week as we get into it. All right, let's start off. Happy Friday. Once again, thank you all for being here. And let's get into some of the core headlines that are driving the narrative today. I think we got to start off with this Meta discussion. Micron is definitely making some headlines as well because Micron is investing a lot in the United States, a few $1 billion in terms of building up some new factories. So we got some stuff to talk about when it comes to Micron. But Meta obviously is the story of the week. And quite frankly, a lot of what Meta said over the past 2 days is really good for the broader AI trade. So Zuckerberg did an interview with Bloomberg yesterday, and he said a couple of core quotes that I think are important to understand. Number one, he said that the new model that came out yesterday, which is the reason why the stock is up 15% in 2 days. Again, $1.6 trillion company up 15%. That's usually not easy to see. It takes a lot of market cap for that to move, but you have people that are surging into the stock. We'll also talk about Robinhood. They got a bunch of upgrades this morning, along with Meta getting a bunch of upgrades. After doing this for about 4 years, it has become so obvious to me that the sell side moves with price action. Because 2 months ago, every single sell side analyst that had a $120, $130, $140 target on Robinhood moved it down to 70 and 80. And all of them, I mean, almost even Barclays, which is the most bearish, they had 82 last week. They went up to 120 yesterday. It's like, what really changed in a week? Like, you can't tell me your fundamental thesis changed. So price action dictates a lot of the narrative. And with Zucks, you got a bunch of different upgrades on Meta today, likely because the price is changing. The price is changing because of Meta Muse Spark 1.1, a strong agentic encoding model at a very low price. It's available through our new Meta model API in Meta AI. Zuckerberg told Bloomberg yesterday that this is going to be a paid tier for developers. And the goal, essentially what he said, is to bring token costs down. If these token costs go down, it might not be the best for Anthropic and OpenAI, and I'm sure they'll find different ways to navigate it, but it's going to be really good for the software companies because they'll be able to govern, orchestrate, and process more tokens through their application and infrastructure layers. And number two, it's really good for consumers and enterprises because no one wants to pay exorbitant amounts of token spend for use cases that aren't fully defined yet, right? And in the process of an enterprise figuring out how to actually make those tokens useful, they don't want to be spending billions and billions of dollars. So that is really good for Meta, really good for the broader AI industry. But the other reason it's really important for the stock is because it diversifies the perspective that the street has had that this is just an advertising play. And if it's not just an advertising play, if there's an AI business associated with it, then that becomes a lot more exciting. The other reason that I think the market is excited about Zucks right now is because he told Bloomberg yesterday that we are not in excess compute, but it still makes sense for us to have an AI business. So this kind of debunks the narrative, which is very good for the neoclouds, CoreWeave, Nebius, Iran, et cetera, that there's so much excess compute, therefore we're not compute constrained. And as a result of not being compute constrained, the neocloud thesis is over. Zucks is saying the opposite. Zucks is saying, actually, we still need a lot more compute. We're doubling down on our compute commitments, which is what they announced yesterday in the pre-market, and the stock fell to 577 because they're spending more on compute, which is hilarious because now the stock's at 650. So the market kind of just switched their mind immediately in terms of the use cases of what that compute could be used for. In this case, a coding model. And an AI cloud business still makes sense, which means they'll just be able to sell, more of that compute to other entities that could get a benefit of it. So next week headline, Meta Muse Spark primarily created for Metaverse. Look, I don't think Meta's out of the woods yet because I think there's a couple of headwinds. Number one, they could just raise money with an equity dilution, just like Google did. And I think, quite frankly, they're trying to pump the stock. And I'm going to show you a little bit of evidence of why I think they're trying to pump the stock explicitly. So that they can do what Google did, which is honestly the thing they should do, because Google getting to raise $85 billion of free money essentially by just dumping it in the public markets. Google stock is at what, 350? They did that at 370. There's not really been that much of a difference. And so the market has been able to withstand that. And I think Meta will do it, which means there might be some short-term pain on the stock. But number two is, every time Meta makes this run going into earnings, which remember, it was at around this price, 670 before earnings last time. They say something on the call that is either inconsistent with the idea that they are starting to diversify Meta Superintelligence into other different products and that it's going to take more time, or Zucks kind of is very nonchalant about it that the street doesn't like, or they say they're massively increasing CapEx. Now, I think the reason that's not going to be that much of a concern this time is because so much of the street is expecting them to do about $200 to $220 billion of CapEx next year, which, it's one thing to assume it. It's another thing for Zucks to announce it and then for the street to have to digest that, oh crap, free cash flow is probably going out the window. But if the narrative is changed that the CapEx is useful, then maybe there's a better chance that the street is excited about that. Dylan Patel, the founder of SemiAnalysis, wrote this yesterday. We believe Meta is the only hyperscaler NeoLab on track to be world-class at all three. and therefore has the best chance at catching up with Anthropic and OpenAI. When he means all three, he's talking about building a true frontier model using data, talent, and compute. Alexander Wang, the head of AI at Meta, quote tweeted that post and said, "Compute Daddy Dylan has spoken." I think that was a very interesting frame of words, but I think what Alexander Wang is trying to communicate to the public is, hey, the guys that understand the world of compute and AI are saying that we are going to be the best in AI and we have the best chance to compete against Anthropic and OpenAI. Now, it does feel a little weird that out of nowhere semi-analysis, I don't know if anyone else has felt this, but semi-analysis in the span of 2 weeks, by the way, Alexander Wang also quote tweeted a picture from TrendSpider about Meta stock, and he says, "Market has spoken." So when I mean they're trying to pump the stock, I mean explicitly, like you got the head of AI quote tweeting multiple things about the stock price in particular and saying, "Hey, look, the market is reacting to this." I haven't heard semi-analysis talk this friendly about Meta in like years. It feels like over the past couple of weeks they've switched their tone on it. Now, probably it was that Meta Compute announcement that came out last week that really got semi-analysis on this idea of, hey, Meta might be one of those frontier models that not only can have a compute business, but can also compete using their compute with Anthropic and OpenAI. But this happened kind of out of nowhere. And so you got a lot of people speculating, like, are Meta and semi-analysis kind of contributing together, collaborating together to change the public narrative of the stock, which no one can necessarily prove. But it did really come out of nowhere. But then again, these Meta announcements also kind of came out of nowhere in terms of them starting this compute business. Although, if you've been a Meta bull all year, you've kind of thought eventually there was a chance for them to do this. And regardless of how you feel about, how the mainstream narrative has changed, the point is the stock has changed. And as a result of that, for those that have been buying the Meta dip this year, I have been buying that dip. I bought it at 600 on Tuesday. It has been hard to defend Zucks, especially when that prediction markets nonsense came out. But this might be the chance where people are getting rewarded. I think most people ended up buying it around the 630 to 650 range because, it stayed below 600 for a very short amount of time, but it did give you two opportunities. So I think a lot of people, including myself, are starting to more so break even versus like be deep in the green and be in profits. But the fair value of the stock is probably closer to 750, 800. And so if they give a good earnings, then that could be a big boost for a lot of portfolios this year that have chosen Meta to be one of their core Max 7 allocations. And, time will tell to see how this ends up playing out. But overall, it is exciting, and I think it's really good for sentiment that there's not this excess compute narrative that Meta doesn't know what to do with their compute, because again, that's not just bad for Meta or the hyperscalers, that's bad for the broader AI semi-trade, because SanDisk, Micron, Marvell, they need to get the money for their earnings from somewhere, and that money is coming from the hyperscalers, Meta being one of them. So as long as that narrative does not collapse, seems like Meta should be okay. So that's what we got on Meta. We'll talk more about them in a little bit and see some of the other updates. We'll see how the stock reacts. I don't know if this thing gets sold off into the open. It feels like it has momentum, but this is a pretty big move. I would imagine there's a lot of people that want to take some profits. So, maybe we get a run right up to that 670 level where we at before Q1, or we get kind of a consolidation down to 625, 630, which I wouldn't hate either, as long as we don't go back below 600, which hopefully is not going to happen here today. AMD, that's down about 1% pre-market. Marvell, that's down about 2%. Nebius is down a little bit. Palantir is up about 1.4%. Celsius is up a little bit, and then Rock Labs is up 0.33%. Circle is up. Kathy Wood bought a ton of Circle yesterday, and the headline on Circle is around the Clarity Act, if I'm not wrong, as that is getting more potential to be signed going into the month of August, or going to get into law into the month of August, which is what we kind of thought the process would take. May have the Senate approval, House committee, and now you're getting into full Congress approval. Also, Circle received final OCC approval to establish a Circle National Trust, a federally regulated national trust bank. It will provide digital asset custody for Circle and its affiliates, and could later serve select institutions and manage USDC reserves. That is also what is happening in terms of clarity around their actual business as well. So yeah, you got a lot of the crypto narrative that is starting to not necessarily change, but definitely get a bit more excitement. In terms of Robinhood, let's talk about Robinhood real quick. Multiple upgrades across the board in terms of people that are excited about Robinhood. And the primary reason when I'm reading these upgrades, by the way, KeyBank also raised their price target on Meta to 790. So you got a lot of 790s and 800 targets that are coming out. The main reason for Robinhood is Robinhood Chain. So what is Robinhood Chain? We haven't talked about it too much. You had KBW raise their price target from 65 to 100. You had Morgan Stanley raise their price target from 95 to 124. Robinhood Chain, we talked about it a little bit yesterday, is essentially their version of how real world assets should be traded on chain. Now, there's multiple different decentralized exchanges that exist out there, or DEXs, and there's Solana, Ethereum, etc. Robinhood has built their own version of it. And yesterday, Vlad shared this, Robinhood Chain flipped hyperliquid in 24-hour DEX volume per DeFi Llama data. Robinhood Chain did $433 million of volume, hyperliquid did $296 million. Hyperliquid is one of the strongest DEXs that are out there in terms of, I mean, their coin hype in terms of the crypto markets has done the best this year, I think, out of most of the major coins. And the sort of momentum on what people are building on has kind of shifted from the Solanas of the world, even though that one's still popular, to the hyperliquids. If people start meaningfully building decentralized applications from a crypto perspective, or even decentralized assets, listing them on Robinhood Chain, which is, I think, this broader vision on how they're going to build an entire crypto ecosystem, I think the stock could get re-rated. I don't know what that means for their revenue right now. In fact, I don't think it's that incremental to their revenue in the short term, but I do think the broader narrative of, again, what is the $1 trillion thesis on Robinhood, which, there is a $1 trillion thesis, and that $1 trillion thesis is that Robinhood becomes the financial institution that impacts every single part of your life, but also branches out into global financial systems that are growing, that are very nascent industries like crypto. I mean, the value of crypto is not trading Bitcoin or Ethereum. The value of crypto is decentralized applications that allow anything to be traded on chain. One of the biggest asset classes on the planet that Vlad has talked about pretty openly getting on chain is real estate. If they build a meaningful chain where people start trading and you start seeing the tokenization of all different types of real world assets, including real estate, that's just a lot of volume and ecosystem control that Robinhood gets. And I think that's why the platform is trading as well. Yeah, Robinhood's chain is based on Ethereum. They have an L2 on ETH, so it technically should be bullish on ETH. I mean, this was one of the big ETH bull cases back in 2025 when Robinhood started really tokenizing equities. ETH right there up about 1%. So this would be good for the entire ecosystem. And I think it would be really good for Robinhood as a crypto player. The Clarity Act would allow more clarity in terms of Robinhood's ability to offer different crypto products. Also, if we can get perpetual futures contracts unrestricted in the United States. Right now, everywhere across the world, you can trade a perpetual future contract except in the United States. That would also be good for Robinhood. So there's just a lot of catalysts from a crypto angle. And then Q2 was one of the best quarters I think they had in history. So it looks like the stock wants to break 120 today. We touched it for like a millisecond last week. It's at 118.14. The pre-market 120 is a bit psychological, given it started off the year in that range. So if we can break through, that would be exciting. But that's one thing that we will keep a lookout on for today. Yes, FOMO also added trading on Robinhood Chain. FOMO is one of the latest startups that is innovating in the crypto space as well. And I think 8% of their entire volume yesterday happened on the Robinhood Chain via the FOMO app. So you've just got a lot of the new incumbents working with the new startups as well. And, the collaboration on that seems to be really exciting for the broader crypto ecosystem. So that is what we have with Robinhood. Let's talk Netflix real quick. Netflix was down yesterday, 2% after hours. It's starting to recover a little bit right here. The reason they were down is because the Wall Street Journal put out a report on Netflix, and they said that Netflix is exploring live TV in bundles as it struggles to keep viewers hooked. So the thesis of the article right here was that Netflix is having a problem with engagement. That engagement is due to the lack of content that keeps people hooked onto the platform. And there's two ways they're trying to resolve it. Number one is they're trying to engage in podcasting and all these other different creator-centric forms of media, which is why you've seen more podcasts on Netflix. And that is a strategy that they hope will get more people to be engaged on the platform. Number two is live TV. So they want to have channels on Netflix where there's continuous live streaming of whatever the TV network or the TV channel is rooted in, which is just hilarious to me because the whole point of streaming was to go against the TV model. Not that the TV model was bad. It was just that, streaming was a whole new way of consuming content. And because Netflix is essentially, matured as a business and there's just not that many more subscribers that are willing to pay because they already have 330 million of them, they need to find different ways to monetize. And advertising is one of the best ways to monetize. Ads in between, TV shows, which is the typical model of TV, or just people willing to pay that extra couple bucks a month because of those live channels might be the way that Netflix continues to monetize. The stock got punished for it last night, starting to recover right here. I think it once again adds to the narrative that Netflix is having an engagement problem. I don't think that means Netflix deserves to go to 40, $50. It's a blue chip stock. It's trading at the lowest valuation it's had in a couple years. I think if you like it right here, this is where you nibble. But that report is something that the street is trying to pay attention to in terms of seeing what Netflix's eventual story will be to get more momentum. Microsoft right there, that is up about 0.5% as well in the pre-market. Do we think the next sentiment shift is going to be Microsoft? Because I'm sure people have kind of noticed it, especially if you're on X. The level of vitriol that people had for Meta over the past few weeks, it's kind of incredible. Like, you would post, hey, I'm buying the Meta dip, and the comments would just be like, what's wrong with you? This doesn't make any sense. There's a few Micron bulls that were just like, Meta's dead. Micron is the new story, which, to be fair, they're right. I mean, Meta has been dead all year and Micron has been great. We'll talk about Micron in a second. But, just because Micron is having a massive move and it's having this crazy supply demand imbalance that is creating this unbelievable pricing power for them to have better gross margins than NVIDIA, doesn't mean that Meta is dead. Especially when they're growing 33% top line after the 10% move yesterday. They're still only trading at 18 times forward, and they're now getting into the compute business. So the sentiment on Meta was just unbelievably bearish, which is, probably your signal. Remember when I asked all those LLMs before the last Meta earnings? I asked Grok, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, all of them, this is the day that big tech had all earnings on the same day. Which stock is most likely to go up 10%? All of them said Meta. Now, all the LLMs were wrong, but I think part of the reason they said Meta was because look at the freaking valuation and the growth. Like, the stock does not deserve to be trading at these levels. Google ended up actually having the best day, went from like 330 to 395. But then Meta collapsed, and now it has come back. And so I think that sentiment shift has been quite hilarious. And if this thing actually runs up to 700, I think there's going to be even bigger of a sentiment shift. I wonder if Microsoft is the next one to have that sentiment shift, because everything you can say about Meta outside of the growth on Microsoft, because they're not growing 33% top line, you can definitely apply to Microsoft in terms of valuation, importance, the fact that they have a $270 billion stake in OpenAI that eventually they'll be able to get liquid on. They have a massive compute business with Azure. I mean, kind of feels like you just don't overthink some of these names. And, with Meta not overthinking it made sense. Maybe with Microsoft not overthinking it also makes sense. And maybe that rotation from some of the semis to the hyperscalers will also be part of the reason why a stock like Microsoft can make a bit of a rebound. But that is what we have on Meta and potentially what we're going to see on Microsoft. All right, Micron. So Micron is down after hours or in the pre-market. Kind of weird why it's down, given SK Hynix is going to be public today. And so, yeah, it's at 960 right here, down about 2.8%. Maybe it's down because some of that liquidity is getting ready to go to SK Hynix, which we'll talk about in a bit. But they've made some big announcements today with the Commerce Department. I want to play some of these clips right here. And, Micron's doing what it has to do to keep the administration happy. I'm sure they want to invest in the United States, but the fact that they are is definitely making sure to keep themselves in good graces with the administration.
Micron, which builds memory. So you remember, when you have a chip, there's a logic and there's memory, right? So we need to build both in America. So they're building it in Texas and they're building it in Arizona. They're building logic. And now Micron is building here in New York and in Boise, Idaho, hundreds of billions of dollars in memory. You haven't seen a factory. We call it a mega fab, but let's be clear. This is a factory. This is a factory that's going to produce memory chips in central New York, which hasn't had anybody building anything in decades. Bad politicians turned around and let these companies leave. The Carrier Dome isn't here anymore.
At
right?
Syracuse
University. And now you've got Micron pouring it in, right? This, just one megafab, is going to be a mile long, and there's going to be 4 of them. Tens of thousands of jobs. Micron is going to do 100,000 jobs. Then you've got company after company investing hundreds of billions of dollars in America, which leads to President Trump's $19 trillion. That is going to be millions of jobs, 5 million trade jobs coming to America. And this is a great example. I mean, look behind us. Look how much dirt there is and trucks there are. I mean, you can imagine how many tradespeople are going to come right here and work their tails off to build a great, great factory.
All right, so Lutnick obviously pretty freaking excited for Micron. I mean, look, that's bullish. Micron's doing what they need to do. They're investing in the United States. The administration is going to support them. And I think the other, element around this is that they have a lot of cash. So because of having all that cash, they need to do something with it. And obviously investing in more fabs are important. Now, even with the investment in more fabs, this is what Dylan Patel had to say yesterday. It's not going to be enough to change the supply-demand imbalance that is causing the gross margins to be as high as they are for Micron.
January of 26 is when we wrote the note, which was talking about, at the time people were like, okay, memory's gone up 50%. Is it the top of the cycle? Do we need to keep going? And we wrote a note that was basically like, no. I don't think you guys get it right. Memory capacity is only growing 20, 30% a year for the next 3 years. And yet demand is doubling. And so what's going to end up happening is memory prices are going to keep soaring. Users of memory who are less elastic or less capable of adapting to the elasticity of pricing will drop out of the market. Smartphones, laptops, because the costs are going to soar so much, they're going to drop out of the market. And that's going to all give way to AI. And what that means is the price is just going to have to soar and soar and soar until that happens, because capacity is not going up enough. And so ultimately, our point there was memory is in a shortage, and this is not a short-term shortage. It's a shortage that's going to last years. And January of 20.
That's a simple thesis. Look, I agree with him. I think Micron's going to go higher from here. I think a lot of the memory names are going to go higher from here. I know they're having this short-term sentiment exhaustion, I guess is the best word to say, just because the stocks have moved so high. But SK Hynix has drawn in $200 billion of demand for a $29.7 billion ADR listing. And so like the institutions, which is honestly what really controls the flow of these stocks, I mean, they're not 7x oversubscribed on SK Hynix and willing to get allocation because they think SK Hynix is a bubble. Now, maybe it turns out to be oversupplied quicker than usual, which would obviously collapse the pricing power. But if that's not going to happen and you have the biggest institutions in the world that are willing to bet that's not going to happen, then Micron's probably going to go higher from here. SanDisk, which already went up 10% yesterday, Meta secured a long-term deal with them, is going to go higher from. I think the memory names are intact. I just think, going to 1,500 after they just went from 500 to 1,000 probably might take a few more months, right? If not a year versus a few days. I mean, I think everyone got so used to seeing Micron go up 1 or 2% every day that the fact that it's been consolidating has been surprising, but also, probably more healthy than not. So the cyclical narrative, I think, is still real, and I think there's risk to that narrative. I just think, once again, if capacity continues to be in such undersupply, then at the end of the day, that pricing power will last, and it's up to the market to figure out what premium they ultimately want to give on a stock like Micron. That's down about 2.4% in the pre-market. Broadcom, which broke out to 407 yesterday, getting a little bit of a hit pre-market as well, 396. They signed that $30 billion deal with Apple, which is why they got that move up into the 400s. But nice reversal sentiment-wise as well from Broadcom after earnings. Still down significantly since earnings, but at least not in the low 360s anymore, as it continues to be green. Felipe, thank you for the super chat. I've been trading meme coins on Robinhood Chain all day. Robinhood Chain has attracted a lot of the meme coin traders, which is also very bullish, as that is one of the core elements of on-chain crypto activity. Right now, there's basically 80% meme coins. There's not New York real estate that's tokenized that you can trade on chain. So if that's one of the core use cases that Robinhood Chain is already getting exposure to, then that's something that could potentially flip some of the other dexes that are out there and give them a lot more volume. Alex, thank you for the super chat as well. Visiting Rome from Michigan. Crazy the market is opening at 3 p.m. around here. The world feels right again with the market open back. Shout out to Amit. Alex, thank you for the super chat. It was so crazy in Singapore when the market was opening at 9:30 p.m. at night. I mean, there was like an appreciation I had for it because like you're ending up the day with the market being open, but there was also like this is just kind of weird type of thing. So deep respect for everyone who watches it in a time zone that's not early in the morning. Okay, SK Hynix, let's talk about that. So they are getting listed today. I don't know when they're getting listed, but they will be. I don't know if it's at like 10 a.m. or if it's going to be at 1 p.m., but here's some coverage on it. If they do end up getting listed during the market open, then we'll see how these shares end up reacting.
Than the American rival in terms of markets, almost 6 times forward earnings versus Micron 7. So not that much, but still, a little cheaper. That discount existed because U.S. investors couldn't easily buy the Korean shares. Starting today, they can, which is why analysts see this listing as the catalyst that finally closes the gap between what's going on in South Korea and here in the United States. Barclay estimates the stock could see up to roughly $14 billion in passive buying alone as it enters the major indices just over the next few months. As for the $26.5 billion raise, it all goes into new fabs and equipment like ASML, parts. Part of the Korean build-out specifically, the company says could reach $720 billion. None of that supply, though, arrives before late 2027, which keeps the memory shortage going and record prices high intact for now. The longer-term risk, though, is that memory has never really met a super cycle. It didn't eventually crash. I sit down with SK Group Chairman Che Tae-won at 10 a.m.
So I think the stock's going to pump today because there is a valuation gap between SK Hynix and Micron, as Micron trades at a little bit more of an expensive multiple, even though they're both super cheap. But the reason for that valuation gap is because one is in South Korea that U.S. investors don't really have access to. And now that it's going public, people on Robinhood could buy it. And, there's just a lot of people that will easily have access to it, creating more liquidity, which could potentially increase the price to catch up to the multiples of a SanDisk or a Micron. So I think the stock goes up. I don't know if it makes sense to have it as a long-term investment if you're not also investing in the other memory companies. I mean, at that point, DRAM actually doesn't make sense. Like, if you believe in memory, you get exposure to everything and they all trade up and down. I don't think there's that significant amount of divergence between one or the other, especially at this mature stage. But, from some of the due diligence I've done on SK Hynix, not a ton of it, there's not something super special with them that doesn't exist with Micron or Samsung. Like, it's all memory constraints that allow them to have pricing power. And if that narrative switches, the stocks go down. If that narrative continues, the stocks go up. And the only thing all of them are going to be able to do with their cash, like, yes, they'll be able to invest in more fabs, but they're also going to be able to just buy back their stock and potentially give a dividend. So the playbook for how these memory stocks, continue increasing in the future is simple: buy back the stock and continue to have pricing power. They're going to have to really diversify into massive new lines of business outside of memory that I don't think they want to do or need to do for like one of them to switch the narrative from the other. Until then, I guess that's how you kind of think of memory in and of itself. Meta, are we hitting 660 in the pre-markets? I think we are. 659, got very close, up 4% right here. Evan says my best guess is 1 p.m. Eastern. Okay, so it won't be like SpaceX that went public at around, it was like 11:30, 12 o'clock. So if that's the case, then people get to see what those shares open up at. SoFi, that's up 1.32%. Noda was on CNBC yesterday. Didn't say anything too different that we didn't already know. The one thing he did say is that prediction markets are likely something SoFi is never going to get into, which is fair. That probably wouldn't fit the SoFi brand. But outside of that, he made the same argument that, rate cuts is going to be what allows the stock to make a bigger move. JP Morgan right here. They had the South Korean flag on their building last night for the SK Hynix US listing, which is also happening today. And so you've got a lot of the underwriters that are very excited around SK Hynix. Two updates on Grab. So one update right here that we got this morning. And again, I'll be coming out with a piece on Grab over the weekend that people can read. It's kind of my reflections from being in Southeast Asia. Grab is expanding Vietnam EV charging network 15-fold by 2028. So they plan a 15x expansion of their Vietnam EV charging network from about 400 ports over 6,000 by early 2028, as Vietnam is going to be one of the key environments that they compete in over the coming years. Number two, and I thought this was one of the more important updates. This one was very interesting. So there is a food delivery company called Wonder, which has subsumed Grubhub. They are planning to go public, and they are planning to go public at a valuation of $9 billion. They're doing $2 billion in net revenue this year. I thought this was really interesting because Grab's enterprise value, if you take away the cash on balance sheet, is $10 billion, and they're doing $4.2 billion in revenue. Wonder is targeting $5 billion in revenue by 2028. Grab is going to be doing about $10 billion in revenue by 2030. So when you look at the valuation disconnect between some of these other companies that are in the food delivery drive hailing space, they don't have financial services. That's one of the, I think, the key levers of operating leverage increases for Grab is that financial services business that I think is going to set to expand and at least get to break even this year from an EBITDA perspective by the end of 2026. That valuation is like fundamentally discounted against the other players in the space. And so, once again, we're not 350 anymore. We're trying to get above that $4 range. Some of the international stocks have started to get a little bit more momentum as oil prices have gone down. But I think this is just one of those things where, yes, it is an annoying waiting game. You are seeing some of the more exciting institutions like a Renaissance Technologies get into the name. But I do think at some point at a $10 billion enterprise value that if you put a 20x multiple on the 1.5 billion of EBITDA they plan to do by 2028, you get $850 as your share price with a 30 billion enterprise value plus the cash on hand divided by 4.2 billion shares outstanding, which they're buying back stocks. So that'll be closer to like 4.1 billion shares. You get to 850. Fundamentally, I think it's cheap. And I think it's cheap by about 50%. The question is going to be if the market ends up rewarding it. Obviously, the AI narrative has subsumed everything. The software names still haven't recovered this year. The hyperscalers have barely recovered this year because the semis, even after the drawdown, have still sucked up so much liquidity. SK Hynix is going to be sucking up another $30 billion of liquidity today. But like all sentiment shifts that we've seen over the past couple of months, Meta being the most recent one, which Meta is not even, I think they're barely positive for the year, even at 650. I think sentiment can switch very quickly. And when it does switch, yeah, Meta's still down 3% for the year. That's when the market gets a lot more exciting, and that's when the algos step in. That's when retail steps in. That's when institutions step in, and you start to just see a different perspective on here. Oh, Trump just tweeted. What did he say? Oh my, he said, okay, this is not an Iran thing. Oh, this is a long tweet. Okay, this is a long tweet. I will not sign the housing bill, which has been fully approved in Congress and sent to the White House in protest over the fact that the United States Senate is not capable of passing the Save America Act. We talked about this a couple of days ago. We talked about this. One of the things I think we were discussing is that Trump's not going to pass any policies until this voter ID thing gets passed. The act states quite simply that to vote, a person must show photo voter ID, proof of citizenship, and that there will be no more crooked, corrupt, destabilizing mail-in ballots. The Save America Act's non-passage is crazy and a serious threat to any politician who votes against it. If the Democrats or any rhino or worse working with them do not allow a positive vote on Save America, then terminate the filibuster and pass this, every other bill that the Republicans have ever dreamt of, in addition to the upcoming budget bomb and the 1929 catastrophic style debt ceiling bill, the Democrats will terminate the filibuster if and when they ever get the chance to do so in the very first hour. And I will no longer be able to call them the Democrats again. The title of dumb will revert to the Republicans who allowed this horrible calamity to happen to our party and our nation itself. Make America great again. Okay, so you've got Mr. Donnie T right here basically making the argument that there is no bill that will be passed until that Save America Act is passed, which is essentially voter ID laws. I don't know if they're going to have enough votes to pass that. The Democrats are obviously not in favor of that at all, as voter ID laws have been something they've been against for the past 3 decades now. And the Republicans obviously don't have enough votes in the Senate to get a 2/3 majority to be able to pass that law. The housing bill, which housing bill is he talking about? Landmark housing bill that Trump trashed will become law unless he vetoes it tonight. This is an affordability bill. Oh, this is a bill that allows more building of homes. So this is an affordability bill that creates more subsidies and the ability for home builders to create more supply. Okay, so obviously that's an important bill because we have a supply issue in the United States, which is why housing prices are up the most in 5 years. But there you go. Trump says, I will not sign the housing bill, which has been fully approved by Congress and sent to the White House in protest over the fact that the United States Senate is not capable of passing the Save America Act, which is polling at 95% with the Republican Party and very high with the non-politician Democrats. All right, I don't know if that affects the market too much. It is more political than anything, but it could affect the markets if Trump, holds back passing any policy, especially policies that obviously could have an influence in the economy, on this voter ID thing. I don't know, guys. If they don't win the House or the Senate, or if they get a slight majority, they're not going to have the ability to have 2/3 pass that act. And I mean, Trump might protest for the next 2 years about trying to get this thing passed. So we're going to have to see what ends up playing out there and if it actually affects the Republicans going into the midterms. I also wonder what the narrative is going to be going into the midterms. Is it going to be affordability? Is it going to be Iran war? Are we still going to be fighting the Iran war going into the midterms? And the midterms are not that far away. It's like 4 months. So the idea that the Iran war was going to be behind us by June, that's definitely not happening. Maybe by the end of August, but it depends on how the administration plays this out. And even if we have like some negotiation framework, I really doubt we're going to have a signed deal that's going to have every stipulation agreed to upon by both sides, because both sides just bombed each other last night. So feels like this thing is probably going to take some more time to figure out, but that is the update we have from Trump. Apple, that's down about 0.5% pre-market. Amcor down 2%, Intel down 2%, and then Qualcomm down 1% as well. To wrap up on Grab, again, I think sentiment sucks. Sentiment has sucked all year, but I do think fundamentally it's undervalued, and the tailwind of oil prices coming down and then just them increasing financial services, hopefully, is what can get the stock to make a bit of a move going into the end of the year. But obviously the AI names have taken up most of the excitement. Even the defense names, you've got a $1.5 trillion defense budget getting passed, and Ondas, Kratos, Aero Environment, they haven't been able to make a move. And it's just quite incredible. They're all below the moving averages. They haven't had the tailwind of like, hey, we're spending a lot of money. We're going to have a lot of autonomous drone warfare. Anduril is raising at a $60 billion valuation, and none of the defense names matter because the AI names, the semiconductor names have taken all the liquidity. Even the space names, which had a run for about a month and a half, they've all been decimated. A lot of them are now trading either negative year to date or barely flat year to date. And I think once again, that liquidity has continued to go into the pitch and shovels, which is CapEx. SoFi breaking over 19 pre-market. Breaking over 19 pre-market. Nice to see SoFi getting some love. Robinhood again, 118. I think Robinhood is really going to try. Robinhood now 119 to go for 120. But we're going to have to see if that happens. Macro news. We got 3 minutes until the market opens. Shopify got upgraded to 150 from Stifel. They say, we believe the company will continue to execute its share gaining playbook and has a path to 30% revenue growth. Shopify has been a new position for me in the portfolio. Bought it on Memorial Day with Reddit. Reddit was at 142. Shopify was at 103. Shopify now at 124. It was at 150 3 months ago, fell all the way down to 95. So potentially a narrative shift and a re-rating on Shopify theoretically could happen as well. Humanoid robots. Neo, which is one of the humanoid robotic companies in the private space, put out a new video. Here is their update on what their new robot can do and the dexterity of the hands on that robot. I'm going to turn the music off because that's definitely going to get us banned. But there it is. It's picking up a wine glass. It's adjusting a light bulb. It's now turning it on. There's the robot right there. It's now picking, I mean, these are really, so it's trying to show all the different diverse ways that it can do stuff. Those are grapes. That was a screw. These are relatively small things that it's trying to navigate. There's another weight, 20 pounds, a zipper. I mean, it's cool, right? Like, I think the humanoid thesis is still going to take some years to play out, but it's pretty cool to see the innovation in the space. And, the thing is, these might seem like really basic things, but these things have to happen before we get massive, massive scale. And, until we get that stuff, then I don't think we're going to see more progress in the supply chain elements of humanoid robots. So there it is, playing video games. This was another video yesterday that also went viral. So this is the robot right here, really showing the speed of those hands. And yeah, I mean, look, bullish humanoids. I think the thesis is definitely going to play out over the coming years. I do think people are getting a little bit too excited too quickly in terms of how quickly, the robots are going to be able to scale, because they still need to be able to do basic things like pick stuff up. But eventually over time, if they get to that point, then it should be exciting. We should see what happens with the humanoids. Last quick macro stat before we get into the market open. This one's a little bit of a narrative shift in terms of consumer credit. Consumer credit fell $182 million in May. The expectation was it would go up by $17 billion in the month of May. It's the first monthly decline of consumer credit since November of 2024. So maybe a lot of Americans are just looking at their credit card bill and saying, hey, maybe this is getting too much and we should stop taking out as much credit. And theoretically, that could be good for the broader economy, maybe less spending, but also maybe some more financial responsibility across the entire country. Here we go. Friday, July 10th, the stock market is now open. All right, wake your ass up. Let's get into it. Robinhood gets rejected as soon as it opens from 119 to 117. So you had an ugly red candle right on the open on Robinhood. You got an ugly red candle right on Micron as well, down about 2.34%. Grabs up 0.5%. SoFi breaking through 19. Let's see if 20 is in the cards for SoFi today. That's up 2.6%. AMD goes red. Marvell goes red. Nabesis goes red. Palantir goes green. Netflix goes red on that Wall Street Journal report yesterday about lack of engagement from their subscribers. Shopify gets a 5% move as soon as we get into the open. Microsoft goes green. Meta has got to be moving. Look at her go. 663. The buyers are stepping in for Mr. Zuckerberg right here as the narrative has completely shifted in what feels like a few days, even though it honestly has been many months of pain for holding this stock. Apple's down 1%. Amcor's down 2%. Intel's down 2.5%. All right, so semis down, software up. We're going reverse of yesterday, at least for now. Maybe that'll change in the next 30 minutes to an hour, but semis down. Let's go to the semis. I'm pretty sure all of them are red. All of them except AMD, NVIDIA, and SMCI are red, but AMD, NVIDIA, SMCI also are barely up. They're up like 0.2%. SMCI just went red. The rest of them, Broadcom, Qualcomm, TSM, Marvell, ARM, they are all down. Amazon, I'd imagine the hyperscalers are up if the software names are up. Amazon 250. Feels like we haven't seen 250 in a while. That's green. Tesla should be up. Tesla's up. Google's down. Weird that Google's down. Amazon's up. Microsoft's up. Meta, wow, 670. 670 for Mr. Meta. Tesla 408. NVIDIA, it is technically a hyperscaler as well. So in the Max 7, that one kind of flipping the semis trend, but going green with the rest of the Max 7. Google, the only one being red. Wow, Meta really saying it is time to trade at a bit higher of a multiple for a company playing at 33 or a company growing at 33% on the top line. Oracle, that goes red with the NeoClouds. Iren goes red. Micron goes red. SanDisk down about 2% after being up 10% yesterday. Reddit goes green. That's up 2.34. Robinhood as well gets a nice red candle right there. Still up about 1.95%, but that 120 range I feel like is just tough for Robinhood to break through. 117.36. Shopify and SoFi really making a nice move right here. SoFi 1940. The last time SoFi was at this range was, I believe, the first week of June when it hit 20 in the pre-market. And then as soon as the market opened, it obviously dumped. And we went back down to 17 in the next week. Maybe we are seeing a reversal here and a start to a new trend on this name, but this one is absolutely crushing the market open. And then Shopify looking for 130 as that continues to go up. This is interesting. This is the exact opposite of yesterday. Yesterday, you had all the NeoClouds and all the semiconductor names really, I mean, Micron was up 7% yesterday into the open. Today, you're seeing the exact opposite. Microsoft, 389. SanDisk down 1.3. Netflix down about 1.4. Netflix theoretically should be going up with the software names because it trades with those algos, or at least it has been over the past couple of weeks. But that Wall Street Journal article probably taking it down. Bloom Energy, that's down 4. How about Nike, consumer discretionary? That's up a little bit, 1.2%. Is ELF up? ELF is flat, which is not too bad. But that is somewhat there. Robinhood, 117.72, 2.26%. And then Oracle, 143. That one continues to go down. SpaceX, this was actually up in the pre-market. This one goes straight down red, 154 to 149. Space theme again in trouble. Rocket Lab 81.49. This was at 88 yesterday. So space semis down, software hyperscalers up. Service now almost back to 110, and then Zeta breaking through 22. CoreWeave is flat, which is better than being fully red. Nebius actually down at 1.3%. Well, it's kind of what we're used to, right? Every other day, it's the yin and yang of this market in 2026. The software names go up, semis go down, and then vice versa. T1 Energy, is that red? That one is also red, down about 2.2. T1 functionally is a data center play, even though it's a solar play, because their solar energy is like, you know, the tailwind of it is data centers. Meta, 670. 670. Is anyone selling Meta here? I know a lot of you guys have been buying the dip. I think Meta has been, you know, one of the bigger dip buys in the Mag 7 this whole year, Meta and Amazon. Is anyone selling it here, or are we just riding it through? Going into earnings, let's see if we can pop 700. What are people thinking of that one? SoFi, 1940. Shopify, 128. And then Robinhood, I thought there was a shot we could hit 120. It's just not doing it here. Robinhood, 117, as that one kind of starts to consolidate. Nokia, that's down about 2.6% as well. Lumentum, photonics plays, getting some love. These names have been taking a pretty big hit as the optics thesis has not, been destroyed, but definitely has been taking a breather in terms of the excitement around it. AAOI, that stock went from 230 down to 122. Poet, where was Poet? We haven't looked at Poet in a bit. Poet, wow, $8. This thing was at 25 a month ago. So, this is purely rooted in there's another one, LWLG. This one also got up to like $15. Now it's at $6.99. A lot of these smaller companies in the photonics space. Where is PayPal? We haven't looked at PayPal in a minute. PayPal, 46.25. That's up 2.05%. Coinbase should be up on the day. Coinbase also, wow, look at Coinbase, 5%. So you got all the fintechs along with SoFi. Bitcoin also crossing 64,000. Finally getting some love. I don't know who's buying SoFi today. It feels like this is a little bit more institutional than not. On a Friday, 11 million shares in 6 minutes. That looks like there's some decent volume coming into this name as Robinhood goes the opposite direction at 115. And I don't know, feels like maybe rate cuts are being priced in. Maybe the market's being a little bit more excited. About Mr. SoFi, IBKR. This one's also doing well. Look at that, 96.50. That's up 1.45%. It's the pre-earnings bump. To be honest, a lot of these names could be having a pre-earnings bump. I mean, Robinhood had it last time. SoFi had it last time. Meta had it last time. And unfortunately, they all got dumped on earnings. I mean, the sentiment on April 29th when we had big tech earnings was that all the big tech companies would absolutely crush and that their stocks that have been hit all year probably would be up. And for Meta, that didn't happen. For Microsoft, that didn't happen, even though the company is crushed. For Google, it happened. And then Google kind of consolidated. And then for Amazon, it happened. But then a month later, Amazon lost all of its gains. It got up to 277, then went right back down to 228. Now it's at 250. So the sentiment going into earnings usually is exciting. But then the market has to figure out how much they want to price these stocks and give them a premium. Amazon right there, 248.63. As that one loses 250. When can we buy SK Hynix? I believe 1 p.m., 12:30, 1 p.m. it gets listed. And so you're just going to have to watch out for it. But that should be happening later in the day, likely not earlier. NVIDIA, 204. Okay, so NVIDIA going against all the semis and going green. Yeah, weird that hood goes red. Maybe, yeah, they're tanking it here. 119.50 to 114. Maybe those flows are going to SoFi. Palantir also, it was pushing 132, now back at 130. Reddit also was at 207, now at 203. I wonder if this is a start to some red candles on the software names and a start to some green candles on the semiconductor names. Qualcomm still red, 186. Snowflake, is that up? Snowflake's up. Adobe should be up. CRM should be up. All right, so most of your software names still holding as SoFi goes 5%. Let me check resistance at 20. Let's see if there's some juice right there to get it above. Unity is up 7% because Gavin Baker made it the second largest position in his portfolio. He manages like $7 billion. And we'll read his thesis in a second, but it's premised off this simple. Well, let me ask you guys before I say it. Why do you think Gavin Baker, a very prominent AI investor, early to Micron, early to NVIDIA, early to Tesla, SpaceX, all that stuff, why do you think he made Unity a top 2 position in his portfolio? Put in the chat. Why do you think Unity, which makes video games, why do you think? SoFi has 437,000 shares trading at $20 or willing to be sold at $20. So the market will have to digest about 500,000 shares at 20 to get this stock to get above. It's not rotation. It's not robotics, even though Unity theoretically could play a role within robotics. Yes, okay, one person got it right here. AI will decrease the cost of being able to make a video game. That's his argument. His argument is the cost it takes to make a video game, which Unity is an engine to make those video games. Unity and there's another one. There's like a duopoly between Unity and the other one. I'm forgetting the name of the other one, but it's Unity and another one that essentially make a decent amount of the infrastructure in the world. Microsoft partnered with Unity for their vision, or not Microsoft, Apple back in 2023 to make video games. Gavin Baker says AI will make video games 90% cheaper to make. Unreal Engine, correct, Unreal Engine. So Unity and Unreal Engine. I think it's an interesting thesis. The financials on Unity, are okay. It's another software name. It's not the most attractive software name that's out there. But if you just believe that core thesis that their margins will explode because the cost to create a video game will go down substantially, which will take a lot of compute, which is another thesis for, compute constraints, then maybe that's the argument right there. Cerebrus, that's up 1.95% as well. Why is AMD getting a dump? It's not a crazy dump, but it is indeed, 555 to 542 is a little ugly. NVIDIA going the exact opposite, as that one tries to go green. Palantir losing it as well. This is kind of weird. So the semis went red. The software names are now not going red, but they definitely feel like they want to go red. Nebius getting crushed, 211. Rocket Lab getting crushed. Are we seeing 70? Have we seen 70 or below 80 ever since the SpaceX IPO on Rocket Lab? Because I don't think we have. I don't think we've seen below. No, we touched 80 on when did we touch 80? We touched 80 on the 25th of June. And we touched 80.13 today. I don't think we've seen below $80 since the SpaceX IPO. It's held 80 pretty well, but it's very close to breaking that right now. HUD, yeah, I have no idea why they're dumping this one. Friday shenanigans here as the rest of FinTech goes green. Rocket Lab was 80 before Q1 earnings, and then, it made the move to 150. So that's why 80 is a core level to kind of sustain itself. At Meta, 667. Got up to 677, right down to 667, but still green. Green by a lot, 5.3%. This is a weird open, dude. Every trend you thought was in existence kind of falling the opposite direction. Broadcom, at least that's holding around 399. Shopify, 128. CoreWeave relatively flat. Reddit 201 down from 207. SpaceX still at 149. Amazon losing a little bit now. ARM, this one was at 280 the other day, so the fact that it's at 320 is nice, but it's also down from 450 a month ago as well. Again, SK Hynix, I believe that's at 1 p.m. So that could be the culprit for liquidity leaving this market, maybe. It is a Friday. You do have options expiring today. You do have a big listing. I don't know. Just the price action feels very, very weird right here. Shopify up a little bit. Oracle goes flat. Oracle hit 148 yesterday. So again, low 140s on Oracle, giving you another opportunity. Then Micron down 2.5%. Down 2.5%. That Bloom Energy short report, again, I read a couple of the sell side reports saying that they think it's a nothing burger. I also think it's a nothing burger. I think Bloom is down just because it's an expensive stock more than anything. The short report is a little bit fuel on the fire, but I don't think the short report collapses the company, especially if China being their supplier is the biggest claim. But stock is down 6 right here. Okay, let's see what else we have. Qatar blocked a major defense manufacturing agreement between Volkswagen and Israel. And then you have Axios reporting that a U.S. official sources that they do not want Israel to be part of the new attacks on Iran, which means there's probably going to be more attacks on Iran. One source said the prevailing Israeli view is that Trump does not want a full-scale war and may only be willing to restore the naval blockade on Iranian ports. Yeah, that naval blockade is still gone. If we were to bring that back, the strait is still technically open. So, they would close the strait if we end up putting on the blockade. And I wonder then how the market reacts to that. They are dumping hood here. SoFi now with a red candle, even though that's still up on the day. Netflix getting clapped based on that Wall Street Journal article about lack of engagement. Fermi, they did an offering yesterday. This was a data center IPO last year. That stock down 16%, $350 million offering. Fluence, I don't know what happened to Fluence yesterday. But there was some headline that messed them up, as this one ended up taking a hit. Valuation right here is at $3 billion. Aero Environment, they crushed earnings, absolutely crushed earnings. But once again, defense is not in style. Just so many parts of the market that have been waiting to catch a bid, and They haven't, even if the obvious catalyst is like a defense budget, or the obvious catalyst on certain names that haven't moved all year is just valuation. You need like a multi-sector rotation thematic, which the theme that has recently experienced that. UNH, healthcare. It's down a little bit on the day, but man, if you trusted UNH around that 250 level, you have been heavily rewarded. Tempest has done well. Molina has done well. You've just seen a lot of the healthcare names kind of be seen as the beneficiary of AI more than anything, which, if you look at some of the case studies on hospitals and how they're using AI and drug discovery firms, Lilly has been a major beneficiary. But that narrative was stuck for a year. I mean, the healthcare narrative was dead for a year. So the defense narrative, maybe it's going to be dead for a while before it comes back. Obviously, software narratives have been dead all year. And we're going to have to see how the market switches their tone. They're seeing the switch on the tone on Meta. It seems like it happened out of nowhere, but it's been dead for a while. And hopefully that happens to some of these other themes. Meta right there, 665 as well. Navitas, that is also getting down, 1350. Cerebras, are we up today? That's weird. Why is Cerebras up 7% while every other semi-name is down? Unless there's a catalyst there. Now, Cerebras is down a lot from that IPO open. You would think it would also stay down. Moderna, that's down 8%. Circle, again, we talked about it earlier in the open. Are they still holding the 15% move? Circle is now up 8%, so even that one getting a bit faded right here. Feels like all the semis are going down because of SK Hynix. That should be a tailwind for the semis, though. Like if SK Hynix is able to raise 30, like I guess it's a liquidity drag, but it's only 30 billion at the end of the day. Like, yeah, it's a lot of money, but we're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars, tens of trillions of dollars that are in the semiconductor names. Is 30 billion really going to take all the liquidity from all of them to go down today? Especially when SK Hynix is basically a semiconductor stock. It should help the semi thesis. Marvell getting wrecked. 235.73. That's down 3. This was at 330 2 weeks ago. So the volatility in this has been disgusting. Broadcom 400. All right, so at least Broadcom back above 400. What do you think about Agility Robotics, CCXI? I think it will pump because people want robotics exposure. The financials of the company, to me, make no sense. And I don't understand why they're going public through a SPAC when the hype on humanoid, if the hype on humanoid robots is as big as it is, how did they not have a way to raise a private round of financing? Like no one on the planet wanted to give them money. They have to go to the public markets just to raise capital through a SPAC out of all things. Like it's weird. Aptronic just raised that 5 billion. Figure just raised that 40 billion. You've got so many companies. And Aptronic and Figure are not shipping thousands of robots a year. They're still in the ideation phase. They've had some construction of prototypes and stuff, but you tell me Agility is the one that like deserves to be public and get all the attention. Like it's just weird. But I think so many people want humanoid exposure that they're going to buy the stock. So I think the stock can do well. I'm just very confused why they're going public via SPAC. NVIDIA, okay, getting a move right here, 206. No news on NVIDIA, but it is up. Semi's still not really going up yet. And we're still waiting for SK Hynix. It might happen in a few hours as well. But NVIDIA 206, that's green. Intel, are we up as well? Intel is not up. It's at 109. Someone said Intel's flying. I wouldn't say Intel's flying if it's down 2.5%. It's flying from 107 to 109, so at least you got that. What's still red on the day? Baba, I would say, is flying. Look at that. This thing was at $90 3 weeks ago, 114. Baba to 114 as that green. Still don't know why Hood dumped, guys. I have no idea. It's what the market does to you, right? This thing was looking like it was headed for 120 pre-market, and then boom, just came right back down. Siraj, thanks for the super chat. Do you think SK pulls out money from the rest of memory? I don't think it should. Like they're all part of the same pack. Like the only reason it would do that is because there's something unique about SK Hynix that is so special that institutional investors, like, yeah, maybe retail sells some of their Micron for SK Hynix because they're bored or whatever. They want something new to play with. But it's like if you're up a ton on Micron, you're going to take those realized gains and pay taxes on those to buy something else that's slightly cheaper than it. You know, like what's the huge differentiating variable between Micron and SK Hynix that would take away money from Micron? Like I don't know. I don't buy that narrative at all. But nonetheless, maybe Micron's price action is signaling that SK Hynix might not be as explosive when they officially get listed. AMD right there, flip screen, 553. As that continues to go up as well. I'm selling some DRAM and other stuff for SK. SK's better valuation. Look, that's fair. It's just, what is it? It's trading at what, like 5 times forward earnings, and Micron's at 6.7 times forward earnings. So yeah, you do have a valuation gap. I just wonder how aggressive is that. SoFi getting hammered from 1974 to 1918. If this thing falls below 19, that's going to be annoying. But that is getting hit. Chris says, look at Oracle. That's probably one of the discarded winners. I agree with you, Chris. I think Oracle is a winner here. I think Oracle can work from 140. I bought it initially at 135, so it's basically at the same price. Didn't buy it yesterday at the pop at 148. Let's see if this thing actually continues to take a tumble. But if every neo cloud is still compute constrained, Oracle has the most backlog out of all of them. Now they have the most debt as well. They're levered up the most. But the market has digested that news. The stock was at 350. They levered up like crazy. Stocks at 140. So I feel like a lot of that is baked in. Why is Netflix dumping? The Wall Street Journal put out an article yesterday saying that Netflix is struggling with user engagement, and they're thinking of getting into live cable programming. I don't know if they would literally be, licensing content from major TV networks, but they're thinking of building a live streaming or multiple live streaming channels inside of Netflix. And them doing that is not bearish, but once again, it's them admitting they don't have the content to keep people engaged right now. They don't have the Squid Games that got them 4 million subscribers in a month back in 2021. Like they haven't had that crazy big hit. They've had a lot of good hits. It's just not that substantial, like the entire world is talking about this Netflix type of show, type of hit. And that's what brings in the subscribers. So granted, I still think the valuation is kind of stupid on Netflix in a good way. But that seems to be the narrative issue. Netflix right there, 73. NVIDIA still pumping. I feel like this NVIDIA thing could be fake because it's just doing it for no reason. But then again, it probably shouldn't be trading below 230 anyway. So maybe this is up for that reason. SK again, I think it opens at 1 p.m. I think. So it'll take some time before we get there. Qualcomm, 189 from 186. Getting a little bit of love. I think every media company is having the same issue with content. Yeah, I agree. Content in general this year, sports has dominated, I think, the majority of mind share versus like new original programming. So this is why Paramount, bought HBO Max. Meta right there trying to make a run back up to 670. Okay, let's see what other macro stuff we've got going on. Price action to open up the first 20 minutes of the day is a little weird, to say the least, in terms of how it's rotating. SK Hynix, as per Bloomberg, indicated to rise 21% after the $26.5 billion offering. Wow. Shares are expected to open at 180 instead of 149. So 149 was the listing price. 180 is what you're thinking, is what at least Bloomberg is thinking will be the public price when it actually gets listed.
In late April and early May, the notional exposure to the levered ETFs that track it, the volume was more than the underlying stock. And when you look at a lot of these, you get to points where, like, if you're looking at the notional exposure of trading, when you incorporate the leverage, we're getting north of 50, 70% of some of these stocks on a weekly basis. So these things are definitely starting to impact their underlying rather than track them.
James, we're getting a first indication here of where SK Hynix will start trading. The ADRs, that is, indicated to rise 21% and to open at $180. Would you anticipate that that's, a fair game in terms of a premium to its shares in South Korea?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't pretend to know exactly what premium or discount or whether it should trade in par with it, but I would say that these ETF issuers, they would love to have their levered single stock ETFs trading today, but the SEC is just not going to allow that. So we're not going to see these levered versions of SK Hynix here in the US likely until Monday.
Has the SEC been pushing back at all, James, against some of these leveraged ETFs, especially considering some of the risks that you just outlined?
Yeah, I mean, so there are rules around what you can and cannot do, and all of these ETFs fit within the rules. My concern is more so the names we were just talking about, Bitmine Immersions. If you look at Strategy, actually, the Bitcoin DAT company, Rigetti Computing, Quantum Computing, Oklo, Nuclear, those type of like really heavy favored retail names, the stuff you see on Reddit message boards, those are the ones where we're getting like these single stock ETFs are getting too big for the underlying. The single stock ETFs in Micron and even SK Hynix, for the most part, yeah, they're getting big, but they're not getting to the level where they're trading more than the underlying or significantly impacting because the underlying have more than $1 trillion in market cap. So there is nothing from the SEC that they're like kind of trying to stop this just yet, because as long as you keep within 2x and there are VAR rules, value at risk, not the FIFA reffing side of things, but there are VAR rules that kind of limit this. But right now, everything is within the rules. But I wouldn't be surprised if something comes out where the SEC kind of needs to put like some sort of lid on some of these with how big and impactful they're getting.
Dude, there is a lot of excitement if there is this much demand where the levered ETF issuers are like begging the SEC to let them begin trading levered SK Hynix the day of IPO. I mean, goodness, dude, 2x, 3x, there are just so many people willing to buy the levered version of these underlying. And I think it's because they all know the underlying is going to go up. So like logically, people are like, okay, if SK Hynix is going to go up 5%, why don't I just buy something that gives me 10% exposure? Now, that's a dangerous way of thinking, obviously, because the leverage hits both ways. But the appetite for it, as NVIDIA hits 206 right here, to almost hit 206.70, it's just gigantic. That feels like a top signal. The thing is, the levered ETF stuff has been seen as a quote unquote top signal for the past 5 months now, and the people who bought these levered ETFs on the memory names have just done incredible. So, and that's because the memory names have exploded 2-3x in the past few months. If that continues, the levered names will do well. But if Micron does this whole up 5% one day, down 5% one day, up 2%, down 7%, up 4%, and just consolidates, the NAV erosion on the levered ETFs is going to be pretty expansive. And as a trading vehicle, they will work. But as for some people that want to hold it for a year because they think Micron will be up 50%, so they want their levered Micron to be up 100%, it's going to be tough. And that's what would reduce the funds. I mean, NVDL used to be the #1 levered ETF. That was 2x NVIDIA. Now that's not even, people don't even talk about that anymore because NVIDIA's done nothing for so long and it's consolidated for so long that the volatility that you need for the leverage to actually be valuable is just not there. Meta 673, 674, 675, 677 was the high for today. Let's see if it can crack through that level. But that is green as Hood continues to get destroyed here. I don't know what is happening here, but that's going down. SoFi as well, still above 19, but losing some steam. NVIDIA, I mean, there's a lot of calls going into NVIDIA. About 7 million worth of calls have been bought on NVIDIA so far this morning. Strike price around 210. Yeah, maybe just a ton of option flows. 47 million in calls have already been bought on Meta this morning. Wow. Okay, so the buyers are coming in for Meta right here. Hood is down because Kathy is day trading again. Did she recently bought and sold a ton of different stocks. SpaceX has been the big thing, if I'm not wrong, that she's been buying. I don't know if she's bag holding SpaceX. I think a little bit. She did buy at that 150 price. She did buy, she bought 20 million of Meta yesterday as well, and a bunch of Circle. But I think she's relatively close to break even on SpaceX. It just hasn't been, the massive outperformer yet. She sold AMD yesterday. Oh, she did sell Robinhood yesterday. Sold 85,000 shares of Robinhood, bought Meta, and bought Circle. She hasn't bought Meta in years. That was kind of interesting, seeing the Meta buy. She did buy the Cerebras top. That was, yeah. She bought, has to be above 250 on Cerebras that day. Why is NVIDIA moving like this? I do not know, to be honest. It's always interesting when NVIDIA is alone on the island making a move while all the other semis are flat. ASML, that's down. I mean, the semis are starting to kind of recover. Not really. ASTS, that's down. Take-Two is down. By the way, I asked Sam yesterday if he would be willing to pay $250 for Grand Theft Auto. And he said if I was a legit gamer, yes. But all you guys disagreed. So I wonder how, ultimately, how Grand Theft Auto will get priced, but it's probably still going to be at 80 as the microtransactions will make the majority of their money. Palantir, they're taking her down as well. Look at that candle, dude, 132 to 127. So that means he's not a gamer. That's fair. That's fair. NVIDIA's benefiting from Meta. Oh, that's a fair point by Chris. I mean, Meta doubling down on building a frontier model. How is that not bullish for NVIDIA? I didn't even think of that. That makes sense. If Meta is going to build a real competitor to Opus 4.8 and Codex, yeah, that's bullish for all the semis. So theoretically, all the semis should be going up, but that's super bullish for NVIDIA in particular. Yeah, more AI labs competing means more NVIDIA training. That actually might be the narrative here for NVIDIA going up. Bloom getting hit. Palantir still getting hit. The other software names getting hit. Datadog, is that kind of green? Datadog is down about 2.4. Still waiting for SK Hynix. We do not have it yet. I mean, again, I think it's going to happen at 1 p.m., so might not happen during the open here in the next few hours. Micron wants to recover, but still down. T1 is getting hit. 689. Down 5%. But then why is memory down? That's a great question, because if Meta is spending more on a frontier model, they're going to need a lot of memory for it. And if they force the other guys to compete, then they're all going to spend more on memory. That's a good point. I don't have an answer for why memory is down. But logically, it probably shouldn't be. We got a headline on Netflix, potentially. Netflix in talks to buy Letterboxd. I think I know this company. This company is a movie review company, right? Say I'm wrong. Nope, I'm right. Letterboxd, social film discovery. It's like a social network for movies. Wow. Netflix in talks. How much would this cost? $250 million. Huh. The sale process is run by Liontree, which is floating a $250 million valuation. They have 30 million members, adding 10 million last year alone as well. What do we think? Bullish or bearish? Has anyone used Letterboxd? Does anyone know about it? Netflix stock's down even more, 72.81. All right, so it's a natural reaction for a stock to fall on a potential acquisition rumor. If the street interprets this as, oh my goodness, Netflix is running out of ideas, then maybe that's a fuel to the fire on the bearish sentiment on this. I don't hate the idea, but $250 million for a social media movie network. I don't know. Rocket Lab loses 80 for the first time since SpaceX went public. Am I right on that? I think I'm right on that. Yeah, for the first time, yes, officially loses 80 for the first time. The last time it was there was May 12th. Okay, there you go. Rocket Lab loses 80 Dolores right here. Microsoft, are we red? Microsoft flips red. Meta's the only one, and NVIDIA in the Mag 7. Well, I think Tesla as well. Holding on to their green. Yeah, Tesla's actually doing well, 408 today. Okay, Netflix, there you go, Letterboxd. So first it was Warner Brothers, then it was potentially Lionsgate, MGM. Now it's potentially Letterboxd. Does anyone use Letterboxd at all? I've definitely heard of them. Honestly, I think I would be the most followed creator on Letterboxd. I should start a profile because my film knowledge and the ability for me to be a connoisseur to speak about Inception and Interstellar and The Dark Knight and High School Musical. I probably should build a following on that app. I feel like it would actually do pretty well. Robinhood 111, Micron 981. As that continues to go down. You're trolling? No, I'm not trolling. I legit think that people would follow me on that platform for my takes on movies, especially because I have so few of them, which means each take matters. Like High School Musical, top 5 movie of all time. That's a take that no one else is going to have. And quite frankly, it's a take that I can defend. And because I don't need to, say the same stuff that everyone else says, I think I would really develop a following. And I believe in it. I'm not just saying it's, I genuinely believe in it. Celsius right there. That's up 1% as well. You don't even know why Palantir is called Palantir? Okay, that's disrespectful. I do know why they're called Palantir. It was hard to get through the movie for 3 hours, okay? But I do know why. Shopify, 126.81. I wonder if they let Netflix go below 70 on this news or just the sentiment. Palantir goes red. Rocket Lab continues to get hit. NVIDIA getting hit at 207. 79.88 on Rocket Lab. So what's up on the day? Everything just, what's actually green? Cerebras a little bit, Circle, but a lot of that pump was faded. I guess Meta is your green for the day. NVIDIA's up a little bit as well, but PayPal's up a little bit. Coinbase move got faded. Robinhood got faded. Even Shopify, the move got faded. SanDisk is up $2 after being up almost 50. MicroStrategy, is that up? That is up 4. Huh. This is a weird open, dude. A very weird open. That'd be a more popular take on Grindr. Okay, that's disrespectful. It's disrespectful. I had 1 week of not getting any disrespect, and we're back at it. Vance, Witkoff, and Kushner in contact with the Qataris amid efforts to bolster diplomacy. Yeah, this war shit's going to be going on for a while. The fact that we had a negotiation framework, which I thought was like some really good diplomacy from both sides less than 3 weeks ago, and now it's trying to repair negotiations is kind of crazy. Here is the SK Hynix coverage. Let's see if we get some updates on when we think they're actually going public.
50 cents. Obviously, that can fluctuate, but 7 times oversubscribed, some complaining they didn't get the allocation they originally wanted. Are you surprised? And what does that mean about the cycle of where we are in AI?
Well, first of all, this is a truly historical moment. And we've been waiting for a long, long time. And when SK acquired the Hynix 15 years ago. So it's a kind of dream, and now it's a dream come true. So I really want to thank for my members of the Hynix, and also customers, shareholders, and the supporters. Yeah, also partners. Yeah, they all actually support us, and I really thanks for them. And without them, actually, we couldn't make this. And this gives us actually there was certain type of new momentum. Mm-hmm. I guess that accessing the global capital market is a beautiful thing, and I actually first things, and we can have a lot of financial options that we can take to play in the future. So,
what do you mean by that? Well, in terms of investing or financial products?
Yeah, in terms of investing, that's the first thing I actually noticed. But we can have a lot of options to play, like stock options, and we can actually hire a lot of U.S. or the global talent easily, rather than just the Korea, stock options to the based on the Korean stock. It's not actually that much the attraction. So that's a kind of one thing. But it's while we that the new U.S. shareholder and also the global shareholder, that actually gives us that some momentum to, we have to actually build the governance system.
if you're talking about building right now, you're building, over $700 billion worth of capacity in South Korea. And that's coming online, by 2033. How do you ensure that investors are not investing at a peak right now when all this capacity does come online?
Okay, this is a big question. This is going to be his response to, is it cyclical or not?
Eventually.
Oh, well, yeah, you could actually say that if it's old days, right? But we are in the AI era. It actually takes a little difference because the demand structure is different. So, let me tell you a little more the detail. Well, in old days, actually the memory chips depend on the number of the people or the number of the hardware set.
Mm-hmm.
So, but this AI era, so AI actually is not just bounded to the number of the people or the hardware set. Actually, what we are talking about the AI agent, physical AI robot, and actually that needed a lot of memory chips. So the demand is a kind of exponentially grow. That's what I see, and I actually met a lot of our partners and the customers, and everybody expected more chips, and even I announced that we're going to double up our capacity within 5 years. But yeah, all my customers said that that's not enough, man, and we need more. So even
doubling, that's quite substantial in just 5 years. That's a lot of spending. But when you're talking about spending, that's $700 billion overseas in just one area. $4 billion here in the United States in Indiana, and that's for an advanced packaging facility. My understanding is the Trump administration is speaking with your company to push a bigger investment. Should we be expecting any more money coming into the U.S. and maybe actual fabs, so building chips on U.S. soil?
Well, yes, yeah, but on the conditions. So it's not easy to build that the memory fabs. Because that we need that the power and clean waters and land and the workforce and ecosystem for the supply chain. So, if it's possible, then why not?
Is it an issue then in the U.S. for those factors?
Well, my team is on the way to study.
Okay.
Well, not only just U.S. and the world is probably all over the world. So I'm trying to find that the right place, and if it's find that the right place in the U.S., then there is
So we're still in the early stages. So it's $4 billion in Indiana and nothing else for now.
But I'm expecting at least at the tens of the billion dollars for the AI side. That's
okay. So basically, the argument here has been the same argument we've heard from every CEO, which is AI will require more memory. That's it. So even with the investments of doubling capacity, it will not be enough. And again, doesn't seem that different from the Micron or SanDisk thesis, but same argument. We need more memory, and that's why he's making the argument that this time it is indeed different.
The different things, and this is we're talking about just memory chips, but I'm looking for the large investment in the AI and the AI data center side and the technologies and the startups. So, or the joint venture with my partners with any kind of AI play. So I'm expecting that huge investment in sooner or later. So.
One of the things that CEOs and I guess bulls of the memory market will come on our network and say that this time it's different because the cycle is going to last a lot longer. You're signing long-term agreements with customers that last, well beyond 3 years, even 5 years. But is SK Hynix removing that price ceiling for those contracts? Because I know Micron mentioned that they aren't. They're capping it so that there's not too much fluctuation. But for SK, I heard that maybe you'd be removing that ceiling so you could take advantage of higher spot prices.
It actually depends on the customer request.
Okay, so
it's different customers, and we try to actually focus on the sustainability for our customers. That's the number one rules, and different customer wants a different set of rules. So somebody wants that open up the price, or somebody wants to secure the price, and also it actually vary for that different product. So. Don't have some standard rules, and I'm trying to customize the long-term agreement, and I even think that there were other various options to our customers, and how we're going to secure that the supply of the chips. But what the problem is that, well, the supply is always shortage right now.
And specifically with high bandwidth memory, which is, you know, what is in demand in the AI era, that, as you mentioned. But it seems like Google, NVIDIA are re-architecturing their products to use less high bandwidth memory because it's so expensive. Even Intel put out a patent recently. So it seems like competitors or customers, NVIDIA is one of your largest customers, are trying to reconfigure their product. Does that hurt your market share, especially when Samsung seems to be catching up in the high bandwidth market?
Right, you are right. But the demand is enormous, exponentially. So I don't really see that there were any shrink sign of the HBM.
So the answer to the question around innovation that would lead to less reliance on memory is that there's way too much demand. AKA, even if some of these companies come up with ways to decrease their reliance, there is still so much demand that they will still be reliant. Maybe far in the future, they'll be able to significantly reduce it, but until further notice, the demand is strong, which means these memory companies get pricing power.
All my partners wants more, and will double up this year's capacity and the next year's, and asking that probably double up they're asking for that the HBM and the conventional DRAM side. So
demand is just so big. It doesn't matter right now.
Right now, as well.
What about Samsung then?
Well, Samsung has, I guess that was same situation. So right now, as supply is short, so people wants that lot of AI usage, and well, in order to get those kind of demand, and well, we have to produce a lot of tokens, and what that token means that the so-called that KB caching, and if you had that the KB caching, and you have to actually store somewhere, that actually, so token increase is also the memory chip is also increase. Demand is enormous.
And since you're wearing our earpiece, I'm just going to ask to see if any of our fellow colleagues and lovely anchor, if they want to ask anything. Oh, they're good. Sorry, I didn't hear that. So if anything, I just have one last question. It pertains to China. You can't sell high bandwidth memory to China, yet you have two massive fabs over there. How do you maintain that relationship with the United States when you're continuing to build in China, and yet we don't want you to send your best chips to them?
Well, there's a little misunderstanding. So, well, we had at the fab in China, right, and the two fabs. But actually, more than 70% of the production is shipping to the outside of the China. It's mostly U.S. side. So the production facility is there, but customer is in U.S. side. And while we only serve that probably less than 30% of the chips to the in local China market, and we just follow that the U.S. policies, so-called that export control. So I don't see that much trouble.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chairman Che, thank you so much. The chairman of SK Group. Carl, back over to you.
Important interview as we continue to watch those.
All right, what do people think? At the end of the day, you are investing in people. When you invest in a company, yes, there's a thesis, but this is the chairman. He will be responsible for the capital that is invested. Are people convinced? Do they like it? Do they think he made sense? Nothing he said to me was that different from what Sanjay has been saying or the guys at SanDisk. I mean, there wasn't any point of difference where he said something like that was specific to SK Hynix. It was broadly about AI and demand being exponential. You either believe that or you don't, and you either believe the memory guys will continue to, have the oligopoly that they're having until that situation changes. So, I don't know. I think if you're buying Micron, not saying you have to buy SK Hynix or anything, but it's in the same boat, which is why I think DRAM actually is not a crazy play if you just want exposure to everything. Apple right there, 313. That's down 1%. Amkor down 2.23. I am curious though if SK Hynix could get a higher multiple than Micron, if there's just like something special about it that gets people to give it a bigger forward PE. It would be hard to imagine that, given it is an international company, but maybe that does take some liquidity out of Micron. Anabius right there went to 216, back down to 213. Was at 220 earlier today. As this one continued to get hit. Yeah, I thought she asked good questions, and I think his answers were just pretty typical. That demand continues to be way too strong to even worry about any of the ways this could go negative. Side of that, this price action is just weird. SoFi lost 19, barely getting it back. Rocket Lab still below 80. Meta losing some steam, but obviously still up 5% on the day. Netflix with that letterboxed headline down 3%. Microsoft flip green a little bit, pound here. They're just not letting her live. Nvidia gets rejected at 208, back to 206. I don't see any sector that's showing a trend today. And if there is a trend, it's like not a trend that's like easy to see if you could go short or go long. I mean, a lot of these semi stocks are down barely 1%, and the software stocks are barely up 1%. Uber is green today. I don't know the headline on Uber. I think they got an upgrade 2 days ago. It was pushing 81 last week, but at least Uber is green. Fundsmith initiated a position in Uber. That is the investment firm by Terry Smith, who is a investment manager. He is a relatively influential out in London, so I guess that could be part of the reason. As they bought Uber, Reddit was at 207 this morning. Reddit goes down 195. CrowdStrike also goes down 3%. 192. Financials. That's actually a good point. Financials are green today, and they've been green. You know, Jason made this point on Tuesday that if the financials are getting a broader tailwind, SoFi at the end of the day is a bank, right? Maybe if the market wants to give banks some love, then SoFi in general probably gets a couple bucks added to it on that financial tailwind. But because it's just so high beta, the rate cut narrative seems to be a bit more in play there. Bank of America 59.68. Bank of America, I think, is on the year. It's at least got to be 7-8%. Yeah, 7% on Bank of America year to date right now. The Googs, this one's actually confusing to me. Google's been stuck all week, and I don't know why. You had new Waymo cities. You had a couple updates on Gemini and Gemini Ultra Pro Flash. Las Vegas, San Diego, Tampa, Denver are coming next for Waymo. So I don't know what is hurting this one, but just not seeing as much excitement on Mr. Googs. SpaceX, that one's taking a hit, 147. As that one starts to come down, Meta's still holding on to its green. Dip on low volume reversal midday for sure. I think that's also been part of the trend, at least on Fridays. Qualcomm right there, 187.13. Right back down from 190. Isn't Meta a big customer of Google Cloud? Yes, I believe so. And this was, talked about a couple of weeks ago when Google started limiting Meta's ability to get access to some of their compute because of the constraints, which once again, kind of proves this undersupply thesis. I don't know. Google's just been stuck. Granted, Google has done the best out of all the Mac 7 this year, right? Yeah, it's up 100% in a year. Year to date, it's up 11.9%. So all of the Mac 7s, Google, it's Google. Amazon year to date is 8, so Amazon's close. Microsoft, I think, is down 20, down 18. Meta's flat. And then NVIDIA is actually up 9. Okay, so Google, Amazon, and NVIDIA are the ones that are up at least 10%. It's kind of crazy, right? The biggest companies in the world up 10% this year, which makes sense because they're so big, but compares to the other names that have ran. Bloom Energy potentially getting ready to lose 240. Oh, wait, Apple. I forgot Apple. Yeah, Apple's actually got to be doing the best. Apple, 15%. Where are we at in the stock draft? What are we doing there? I am 5th. Chris is 6th. Jason is 7th. Matt and Tanner are 1 and 2. And then Steve is 3rd. So Jason, me, and Chris are down 8%. That means that if we flip back to crazy high beta, me, Jason, and Chris probably, see a lot of that alpha. But if high beta is dead, then Steve, Tanner, Matt, much more balanced portfolios get the bid right here. Lily, that's also down 2%. Okay, what else are we seeing here? Delta earnings, I forgot they had earnings today. They are down 1.2%. Says the U.S. economy is strong due to robust jobs, growing household incomes, and notable wealth growth. The CEO said customers are focusing on experiences and valuing connections. Crow-branded credit card spending has risen by double digits. They expect to receive $9 billion this year from American Express. They beat on EPS. I think they missed on revenue, or maybe it's the opposite. Delta, actually, they beat on both. 156 versus 150 EPS, 17.6 versus 17.5 billion on revenue. EPS is down year over year, 26%. Revenue's up 14. Accelera is down 8.5. Wow. That thing's been holding 7 pretty nicely. It's now below 7, 670 right here. But Delta was decent. Corning, is that dumping? Corning is down 2. Just a weird day, right? Like, you're not even getting that normal semis down, software up, or software down, semis up. It's like very discombobulated. And you're not seeing a real. Where's SPY? We haven't looked at SPY. SPY's up. Because that means a lot of the boring parts of the economy probably are doing well today, I would imagine. Let's pull up the heat map. You would probably see that. Charts all look weird. Yeah, I mean, they're just like. I mean, if you're trying to trade them, it looks like it's hard to even see any moment. Like you can't. I mean, maybe you can short SoFi at 1892, but it has a lot of support at 1870, and those 20 cents aren't guaranteed. But at 1950, it looked like it had a lot of momentum, so the long didn't work. But the short also might not easily be able to work. Home Depot, is that up today along with Walmart? Home Depot is up. Walmart is up. Yeah, it does feel like the market's waiting for some news, right? This is the heat map. Everything is obviously red in the context of tech. Everything else is a bit more green. Utilities are up. Consumer durables are up. Energy's up a little bit. Industrial services are up. Finance is up. So it's tech and semis taking a hit. Iren is... Who's actively buying Iren right here at $40? I feel like it's been, stable at this price for a few months now. It's obviously had a run to 70, then came right back down to 37, but 40 to 43. All right, put in the chat. If you're in a NeoCloud, which one are you buying the most of? Nebius, CoreWeave, or Iren? I feel like most people will say CoreWeave. Nebius obviously has had a massive move compared to the rest. It's now taking a breather. Iren is everyone's waiting for the move. And then CoreWeave just feels cheaper compared to the rest. Do you still have Keel? Yes. Very small position in Keel. Again, I know there's a Keel army out there, but it's, to me, more of a speculative, hey, if they get a deal, this thing could double. Outside of that, I don't know. Leopold does own a lot of it, so it is telling given, he's tended to see where the infrastructure plays go. But he also owns a lot of Iren, So the question is, when does that deal come out in a meaningful way? Or if those deals come out. I see a lot of CoreWeaves and a lot of Irens. Yeah, I see very few Nebiuses here. He owns them all. That's also fair. He owns them all. I think he has Cypher too, right? APLD, I think, also had a really big year. Wow, it's below 40. APLD. No, it's only up 11%. It did have a big year on May 28th when it was at 50. So this one is also corrected since then as well. All right, folks, let's bring on a guest today. I didn't tell you guys he was coming on today. He was supposed to come on yesterday, but Got a little busy with some personal stuff, so he is going to be on today. It has been a few weeks since we've talked to this guy, so I'm excited to bring him on so we can grill him on why the sector he covers isn't going up 5% every day and making us rich anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jose.
What's going on, man? How's everything?
What's up, man? How are you?
Chat, don't let him trick you. I mean, I could have made it yesterday. Amit, he's been dodging me for the past 3 weeks. There was a week he replaced me with someone from Semi-Analysis. There was a week he didn't even text me. So he still hasn't taken me to dinner. I don't know.
I have 3 rebuttals to this. Number 1, I texted him for dinner. He was like, dude, I was just playing with you. That's not that serious. And then I had to travel, so obviously we couldn't make it happen. Number 2, the week I didn't text him was the week I was across the world. So he was like, yo, what's going up? I was like, dude, like, we're not doing the show. He's like, oh, okay. And then 3, the Semi-Analysis guy was hilarious because all of you guys in the chat went to his chat and you were like, Mitt, Jose, Mitt replaced you. Like, I'm sorry, man. You used to be able to get in the show. Now you're not. So
excuses. I agree with the chat. Everybody's saying excuses. Excuses. That's it.
It's all excuses. Dude, I'm
now
excited.
I'm gonna come up excuses for the AI market right now.
Well, I want some good excuses from you because we've seen a sentiment shift on semis, not entirely, but definitely enough to the point where a Micron goes from 1,200 to 900, and Nebius goes from 300 to 185, and a Meta goes from 550 to 670. So there's a lot to dive into. I guess let's start off with this. Are you concerned at all about how the market has started to think about the broader AI compute build out, or is it just, hey, these names have gone up a lot and they need to take a break?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of everything. First, I get happy when the market starts to think weird bearish thesis, because I do believe there are now some opportunities at least in the neocloud space. I think the neocloud market is looking very attractive, and we can kind of jump into that a lot. But in a bit, but I'm pretty excited. I think the last few episodes that I've talked that I've been more persistent into buying boring Max 7s, or kind of like the big names with lower valuations, your Nvidia, your Broadcom, your Meta, blah, blah, blah. Now since the recent pull downs, my thesis has changed. I've become a lot more aggressive, and I believe right now is the time for me to increase my high beta names. So I've actually added a lot these past few days into you guys know, in my core weave. I'm actually in Iran now, a nicer position, and every other drop in the 40s, I'm getting into this one. So, and it doesn't mean I picked those 2, but I think the whole market in the neocloud space is gonna completely benefit from this crazy AI demand that the market is kind of, in my opinion, seeing the wrong angle out of it.
So let's get deeper into that conversation. By the way, real quick, I think we have a quote from Trump before we get into it. Trump, the Islamic Republic of Iran has asked us to continue talks. We have agreed to do so, but the United States has stated to them in no uncertain terms that the ceasefire is over. He put a capital over. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Thank you.
There you go, folks. That's a red candle. This is what I think. So the action for the past hour has been so weird. I think the market had an inclination of an idea that Trump was going to say something, or that there was going to be an Iran update, and that's why we've been seeing this price action. And there you go. I think we just got it.
Yeah.
All right. So Trump, the ceasefire is over. That is the quote. Okay, so let's talk about the neoclouds real quick. So, and this gets into the Meta conversation. Meta, excess compute, neoclouds take a hit. You're in Iran. What are your thoughts on what's happening with the neoclouds? Do they still have a business model? Obviously, you're buying Corv in Iran, and in the same jest, do you think Meta is going to become the biggest neocloud now?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in the past few weeks we've had a lot of bearish thesis or takes that bears have taken and run with it, right? We had kind of, I think, Apple announced that they were planning on looking at memory chips from China, right? I think that was kind of one of like the first starters. Then we had reports that Meta had supposedly excess compute and is going somewhere with it. We've had, I think Michael Burry double down on his bearish sentiments towards semiconductor industry. So there's been just a lot of domino effects. With the Apple Meta with the Meta excess compute, I don't necessarily think it's true that what we're going to get, especially since there came out an internal memo yesterday that I think Reuters reported that Meta is attempting to increase their data center capacity next year to about 14 gigawatts. This year, they're expected to get 7 gigawatts. Next year, they expected to get to 14 gigawatts. I mean, you're not going to do that if you believe you're excessing compute.
Right.
The other thing is Meta just released their new Spark Muse models. I forget what they're called, but 1.1 came out. And more importantly, yesterday we did see that they are actually having an API plan with it, which is great because that's a real way to monetize these models. And you're kind of showing, they showed benchmarks that they're good at certain things. So that's a great way for them to get internal revenue. We also had a report from Semi Analysis. I'm not going to... They have a lot of big paywall, but one of the things that I would like to take that everybody's kind of putting already online was that they expect Anthropic and OpenAI to have about 100 gigawatts of compute by the end of 2030. If that doesn't, like if 100 gigawatts by the end of 2030, even if they're wrong, let's say 70, 60, like that's still so crazy compared to what they have right now. Right now, they have less than 10 gigawatts together. So within the next 4 to 5 years, these companies are expected to at least 5x their compute capacity. And that's just two players. We see now Grok is with the Cursor acquisition. They just announced Grok 4.5. There's been some movement there. So in just a matter of a few days, you went from a market that was pretty much a 2 AI race with Anthropic to OpenAI. And now it's like in the rear view mirror that you can see objects may be closer than they appear. You see Meta, you see Mark Zuckerberg, and you see Elon kind of in the rear view mirror of like Anthropic or OpenAI. And I think that innovation is going to drive even more demand. Now everybody's going to be like, okay, we got to go against all these guys again. We're going to keep innovating. We're going to keep trying new techniques. We're going to find new solutions for the AI space. And I think the compute demand is going to continue to grow.
So overall, the Meta announcements, they can't be possibly bearish on compute constraints.
No, definitely not. I mean, everything we've seen from Meta, even from their internal team, showing that they need the compute. They really do. And even if they sell some of the compute, I think there's not enough market. There's not enough compute even out there for that to be a negative scenario.
Irene, why did you have that one?
Oh man, like I said, I think right now I really do believe. I mean, there's so many shortages in the market. Everybody can pick their own shortage via optics, via memory. The one I think I enjoy the most is the compute market. And with the compute market, CoreWeave I like a lot because of their active power. Irene I like a lot. Sub $20 billion. They have about 5 gigawatts of potential capacity coming online within the next few years. They recently got an acquisition to help their software solutions. They have an acquisition that helped them get more space in Europe and potentially Australia as well. And then they have the backdrop deal from NVIDIA, which I believe allows them to be able to sell GPUs more on short-term basis. And short-term basis GPUs right now are going crazy in forms of hour pricing or hourly pricing. And I do believe that's going to help increase the revenue expectations on ARR for them.
So the NeoCloud thesis is intact. Meta becoming a NeoCloud is only adding to their value. And I know you said over the past month you've been buying a lot of the Max 7s that got disrespected. And so the rotation back to buying the semi names that get disrespected kind of makes sense here. NVIDIA, is there anything new to say on this one, or it's just trying to consolidate as a $5 trillion company?
I mean, this one, I think it's going to smack people in the back of the head one of these days. It's like these guys are doing it all. They're now doing kind of the pricing or the funding of data centers, and people see that as bearish. NVIDIA is really good at destroying hurdles. They're really good at teaching the market how to do things. And I have plenty of examples of this when accelerated computing came out, not even AI, right? When accelerated computing came out, NVIDIA started DGX Cloud. I think this was like in 2020, 2021. And many people thought that they were competing against cloud companies. What they were doing actually was they were showing cloud companies, look, there is a business model. I'm actually going to show you how to do it. every cloud company now has NVIDIA GPUs and have these massive AI accelerating solutions. And NVIDIA's like, all right, I don't need to do DGX cloud anymore. Then what did NVIDIA do? NVIDIA showed how to build servers, MGX. And many people were going to say, oh, this is actually their MGX standard. This was actually supposedly bearish for like your Supermicro, your Dell, or your whatever. But no, It was NVIDIA just showcasing to the world, this is how you build a server. This is how you build it quick.
I remember when they had new updates on NVLink with networking, everyone said it's bearish for Arista. And Arista's at all-time highs.
And now they're before this one, they have I forget, STX, I forget what it's called, but it's kind of how to build a data center, right? So it's like NVIDIA wants to make sure they want to eliminate all the hurdles in the AI market. I think one of the hurdles right now is financing. We hear from like companies like CoreWeave, right? They have so much debt, they have such high interest rates. I believe, and I could be wrong, what NVIDIA is trying to showcase now is what is the biggest hurdle right now? Financing. This is how you properly finance neo cloud space. Then the industry is going to say, oh, this is how we go about it. And it becomes a lot easier for all these big kind of data center companies, these neo cloud companies, to be able to build out at a better rate. And that overall becomes very bullish for the overall industry.
So the circular financing narrative, how do you respond to that? That NVIDIA is only giving money to share in AI so that they can buy their more GPUs, and like that's how they get funded to buy? Or is it just NVIDIA's financing what is unlimited demand, but these smaller companies don't have unlimited levels of cash flow?
Yes, I think it's at the moment, and it could change at any time. At the moment, I think it's the latter, right? I do think it's the latter, and I think there could be some indications of when it changes. But I believe right now there's just so much demand, and at the same time, NVIDIA doesn't want it to be just a few players in this market, right? Because if you only, let's say theoretically, you only have 100 gigawatts of power potentially for the whole world. You don't want that whole 100 gigawatts to just be Meta, Google, Amazon, or Microsoft. Because potentially what they can do eventually is like, yeah, we'll build a few NVIDIA, but maybe eventually we start transforming that gigawatt into our ASIC solutions. So NVIDIA is like, why don't I, even though let's say we only have this 100 gigawatt, and again, that's not true. I'm just kind of throwing a number out there. Let me break it down into all these neo cloud companies. So now my market share is always going to be an NVIDIA market share. It's going to maintain NVIDIA market share opposed to maybe going to AMD, maybe going to their ASIC solutions. So I think there's a lot of different ways, that this plays out. But in the current dynamic, it's a great way to keep the neo clouds with NVIDIA. It's a great way to showcase the financing world, how to properly finance and value a neo cloud company. And it allows the market to have more than than a few players kind of taking the whole AI cloud space.
Jose's Twitter, I'm putting that there right in the chat. Everyone can please make sure to follow him. Also putting his YouTube in the chat as well. Jose SK Hynix, are you a buyer? Have you at all changed your opinion on memory, or what are you thinking here?
I think I've become more bullish on memory. I just still wouldn't buy it, right? I do, with the amount of compute that we need, and I know many people talk about like token pricing going down, and like token budgeting. I don't necessarily see that as a bear case at all for token. I think the demand of token is still so crazy high. I think people don't understand the difference between smart tokens and dumb tokens at the moment. A lot of people think that if you optimize on token, like you try to find the cheaper token, the easiest way is, would you rather let's think about a cheaper person, intern or a full-fledged engineer who has full experience. The dumb token is an intern. It might take them a lot longer to complete the task that you give them. They actually might make a lot more mistakes than you originally thought process. You have to probably be more on top of your prompt of deciding what that AI does, opposed to, like, let's say you had a good experienced engineer. The engineer might cost you more upfront, but it might take them like less than 80% of the time to complete that task. So at the end of the day, who are you actually paying more, right? Are you paying more for like the smarter token, even though the initial cost is a lot, or are you going to be paying more for like the dumber token, that intern that maybe you need to buy 4 to 5 interns to kind of make up that difference of that kind of smart engineer or smart token. So I think right now the market is really thinking that lower token cost is bearish for AI market, but I think smart tokens, the frontier model companies are still going to be the big winners because they're going to showcase you that that even if it costs, and I see Chris, the smart costs like 20 times cheaper. But if you can get 20 times cheaper, 20 times, even though it's 20 times more expensive, but if you do it in, if a cheaper AI model, if you're gonna do like 100 tool calling, while maybe the frontier models you're only gonna do 10 tool calling, which one would you prefer? Like it's all about time. It's all about how much
It's also about ROI, right?
Yes, and it's like, do you want to just have your AI infrastructure, or even your local device? I know people are talking about utilization rate is crazy. So if you're spending 2-3 hours of GPUs on nonsense, wouldn't you rather use it on like a 30-minute something more expensive? So I think there's pulls and takes from there. Yeah, I would rather pay for quality than pay for cheapness, at least right now.
So you think the open source foundation models will exist, but it doesn't take away from the value of what the frontier models are doing?
Yes, I agree. I think there's a market for both, and I think for most consumers, like your typical consumer market, they are going to be using more foundation models. I don't think but consumers is not the one driving the AI space. That's the other thing, right? It's like many people think, oh, I'm fine using Gemini Lite, or I'm fine using GPT. Well, you're not the one that's paying Anthropic or OpenAI the hundreds of millions of dollars per month or per year on token costs, right? These are the engineers that need something else. So for the consumer market, I think open source is going to be fine. But that's not the market in AI. Maybe not just yet.
Oracle, do you like it here at all?
It falls into that neocloud space. I do think the neocloud market, then Oracle has kind of the storage solution and data sets that I think is beneficial for them. But all part of that neocloud circle. I think and for that neocloud circle, you have to believe, right? You have to believe that compute is going to continue to be a mass. You're going to have a compute shortage for the next few years.
How do you feel about OpenAI potentially giving 5% of the company to the government?
I don't know if I really have any thoughts on that. Any company that has given that the government has equity has done great, right? I mean, we saw Intel do great. So just that little data point, but I don't know. I haven't really thought about
it. It doesn't scare you at all about like the funding or the too big to fail type of narrative, or it's kind of just like, look, AI is important. If the government owns some of it, that's fine.
I think if there was, it was more to be able to, I don't know, AI. I think at the end of the day, innovation is going to drive who wins here, right? So even if you have 5%, even the United States has 5% on OpenAI, if there's another model that's heaps better than OpenAI, I don't think you're too big to fail. I do think the AI space is going to be one that is really completely driven by innovation.
Broadcom took a big hit after earnings, had a lot of announcements, Apple chips, Meta chips, and now Jalapeno with OpenAI. Do you own this one, and do you think it's a relatively strong large cap semi name to get exposure to?
Yeah, so I don't own it, but if in my channel, I have been talking very positive of this one in the sub 400s. Very, very positive. I mean, the forward PE ratio of less than 25. I don't know what the recent pull-ups. Like you mentioned, they have great partnerships with all these players. They have the Meta chip coming out soon. I know Meta just announced that they're expected to have their chip start rolling out in September. I think Reuters reported yesterday on September. You have obviously TPUs doing amazing. Right, the massive contracts that they have with Anthropic, with Google. Then you have the Jalapeno, and we're going to see a lot more. So I think there's opportunity here for Broadcom to do really well. And it's so weird for me I would say a few years ago, I used to think it was you only could have one player in this space, but I really do see us in such a compute constraint that if Broadcom does good, I don't think it takes anything from NVIDIA. The market might perceive it, and the market share price might perceive it. But I think at the end of the day, you'll see that NVIDIA is going to do just fine. And Broadcom is going to do fine with these two players just going back at it. And again, competition is going to keep going.
All right, let's wrap it up here with some rapid fire. Again, Jose's YouTube, putting right there in the chat, and his newsletter community, What the Chip Happened, putting that in the chat as well, where you can join to get a deeper edge into Jose's thoughts on semiconductors. You guys can put a ticker in the chat in the semis, and we'll get Jose's quick thoughts. This one for you, Jose, hybrid bonding in memory plays. Have you researched that, thinking about that at all?
Yeah, so I mean, semiconductor memory companies are trying to find new ways to improve their yields, and as you're getting more into advanced packaging for HBM, you're having opportunities. So there's a lot of there's companies like BE Semiconductor that benefit from there. I think there's a lot of metrology companies too, companies like Onto, like Camtech. I think the equipment space, anybody under $20 billion has a huge opportunity with what innovation would do, right? Because right now you're having smaller chips. You have to put all these chips together. What is going to be the next way to go about doing this? And if they choose you and they choose your products, that becomes a very sticky business. So opportunity, but obviously it doesn't come with, it comes with risk.
Marvell, now you can get it at the same price when Jensen said $1 trillion. I know you've had this one for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Did you think it deserved to get to 340? And do you think this is more reasonable, or could it bounce back?
I mean, long term, it has tells, right? I mean, it has the big partnership with Amazon. I still own it. I did trim a bit in the high range, but also I am very high beta in AI. So when some companies go up 4x in like a month, it's weird for me not to take a small trim. I still own a good position in it, but like I think I trimmed like 5 to 10%. I wouldn't redeploy that money on Marvell just yet. But I'm still holding the rest because even if it's not this year, the demand for they're doing great stuff with ASICs, but they're also in the networking space, which many people always forget. They have kind of their optics solution. Then they also have memory controller solutions as well, which is great for the memory space. I don't think it's necessarily bearish for the memory companies, but it's like if we need to increase our efficiencies in memories, maybe we can go back and look into Marvell. So I think there's tailwinds with the various shortages here.
Are you bullish going into AMD earnings, or a little bearish now that the price has really caught up to the valuation?
I think it all depends on the AI event. If we do get a big deal, something with Anthropic, I believe the event is July 21st. So what, 2 weeks from now? For their AI event when they release the MI450. It all depends. In my opinion, I care less about earnings and I care more about the AI event and what big partners they announce there. We have to get some big names, right? We can't get the same ones. OpenAI, we know. Meta, we know. What are some of the bigger? If we are,
who else is out there besides OpenAI and Anthropic for these guys to sign?
I mean, well, Anthropic would be big. They don't have Anthropic yet, so that would be great. I know with Meta, they announced kind of like a custom chip that they were going to build with them. If they announce that with other players as well, they don't have Google just yet in the AI chip market. So in theory, if they get Anthropic, it's a great way for them to get into Google and Amazon, because Google and Amazon both have a partnership with Anthropic. And Amazon and AMD is not in either of those players. So by kind of being friends of a friend, I think it becomes a huge opportunity for AMD to get with those players.
SMCI, like it here or no?
I hate the market, but I think this is a stock that like it's the bad child. But I do think if they could stop being bad, the valuation is good. I think even if I hate this market, the valuation is great on Supermicro. If they could stop being bad. You've never liked Dell and you don't like the server rack market essentially. No, it's just too competitive, right? And margins take a massive play in it, and you have a lot of players, right? But I think they're like if for Supermicro would be something that I wouldn't throw big capital in it, but I wouldn't mind throwing like leap calls, and it's either gonna be a loser or a massive multi-bagger. Cerebras down a lot from that IPO price. Any interest to you, or this thing is still too expensive? I got this one on like 204. I entered into this one. It's Cerebras. I think it's my main thesis is compute shortage. $40 billion. OpenAI's recent model, their flashlight, I forget the model, is being run in Cerebras. They announced a few megawatts, a few hundred megawatts of solution. I don't consider this anything killer. Let me be honest. I don't consider this anything killer. Cerebras succeeding doesn't, or anything doesn't mean anything for any of the other players. It's just in this compute constrained market. I wouldn't mind playing this one right now, and I did, like I mentioned, I got this one at like 204.
Qualcomm after the investor day. Does this one look exciting?
Yes. Qualcomm is another one that have shifted into investor day. They announced partnership with the I forget what they call it, not HBM, HBC, I think is the memory solution that they're working with. They mentioned that they have contracts with Microsoft Azure coming in pretty soon. In the CPU space in 2028, which is a bit far. Obviously, they have Meta. So I like this one because they have optionality, right? Optionality. It wouldn't be the first place I would go into, right? I obviously would go into like some of the other names. But Qualcomm and Cerebras were probably my two recent buys.
Interesting. So a lot of the semi names that have shown some new updates and have valuations like a Qualcomm that have been a bit hit. Those are to you seem like the opportunities right here, rather than being afraid that the market is not recognizing.
Yeah, and if you were to ask me like a year ago or 2 years ago, if I would buy these when they entered data center market, my answer would have been no, because I did believe back then that this would be a market where you only had limited space for a few players. So I would have 100% just stick with my NVIDIA, my AMD, and my Marvell. My thought process has changed a lot, where this market is just too big and companies are trying to test out so much that they want to see, look, I don't want to just be on one player. I want to make sure I have optionalities. And that optionality is what has pushed me a little bit more to focus into something like Qualcomm, into Cerebras.
Any thoughts on CXL, if you've looked into it and what it means for memory?
I mean, on the top, I haven't really done the technical research on it. All I do know is it's a way to optimize memory. And obviously, as you know, the memory market is extremely expensive. If there's anything to increase your efficiency in the way these communications, right? These communications between your chip and your memory and your compute capacity, your logic dies, any efficiency, even a 5% improvement, that is hundreds of millions, potentially billions of dollars saved on these big players that are spending $100 billion in compute. Because if $100 billion, they're probably spending 30 to 30 billion plus on memory. So if there's anything, just any form of tool that can give you a 10% performance boost, I don't necessarily think it's bearish for the memory space, but I do believe just yet, eventually it could be. But there's enough incentive and enough money to be saved that it forces customers to go and try your solutions out.
Okay, last question for you, Jose. The software names, I know you're not in a bunch of them, but with the idea of tokens getting cheaper or just more competitive with all these different models, do you think the software names should be getting a bigger bid here, or the semis are the cheapest?
Software names, as long as they have data, in my opinion, I think whoever has a huge amount of data is the big winner in the software market, right? Like for me, a company like Synopsys, they have all this data on how to build chips. That is going to be a company that's going to do extremely well with AI. It's not going to be something that AI could replace. If you're just more like an application, I don't know. I don't see your strength with the AI market. But if you have a huge data sets is what's going to determine how good your AI model does. I mean, even in the financial world, like I use a lot of different financial applications for reading transcript, and you can tell who has like the first party source data and who doesn't. When you have the first party source data, like the AI tool gives me the best answer. And I've kind of concentrated a lot of my tools to just the ones that know the best answer. And I think that's going to be a lot in the That's going to be, I see someone says I'm stuttering, so I should slow down a bit. I see that happening in just the enterprise space as well, where companies are going to notice which one gives you the better answers, which ones have the better tooling, and all that is going to be determined by the data set they have in the back end.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I also think that the level of pain that we've seen in the semi market is also, like, I don't think you've changed any of your thesis about how you think of semis, because like you also are a markets guy and you've been through cycles, and you know that, like, all right, every day the stock's going up 5-6%. Like at some point it chills out. And I feel like we're in that chill out phase. I think every time we chill out, though, people wonder if it's over. But then you get these announcements from Meta that make people realize, no, it's not over, but it's going to take a break.
Yeah, and I mean, I make fun of bears sometimes, but I think bears are great, right? I do think you need to understand some of the risk behind these companies, and like eventually there is going to be an AI capex flatness happening, right? There's going to be a slowdown. There's going to be a slowdown in compute and tokens. I think it's good to understand that that's the risk, and that could happen with some innovation that might come out 6 months from now, a year from now, or whatever. But in the current trend that we're seeing, I just don't see that happening. So any pull down, I continue to like, and this is why it's important to have a thesis, right? Your thesis could be wrong, but at least it's great to have a thesis, because when stock prices move, the thing that you can always have a foundation on is your thesis. Okay, why did I buy this company? Oh, it's because I believe AI compute is going to be a shortage for this many years because of what I'm using these AI tools for. So if stock prices drop, it's like, I don't see that changed at all. And there are times when you can kind of see the stock prices go up a lot. And I tend to, just from prior experience, that's the time I don't like chasing high beta names. I got so many complaints for the past few months. Jose, all you talk about is Meta, Microsoft, Google, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, that's all I want to buy right now, right? And now it's like, oh, Jose, you're talking about CoreWeave and Iran during this bearish market. That's okay. I mean, those are the same type of comments I had when NVIDIA was like dirt cheap, when AMD was dirt cheap. Jose, why are you talking about these? Because it's game over. So the comments are probably my greatest indications of where we're at in the market trend.
I think sentiment in general, right? Like it's just human nature for the crowd, and I'm a victim of this as well, to get super bearish when you don't need to be, or super bullish when it's like the move has already happened. And I think years and years of experience lets you kind of find these opportunities of going against the trend. It happened with Meta, and theoretically could happen with some of the neoclouds and the semiconductor names that are down. Do you think Microsoft could have the next trend shift, or do you think that one has a bit more complicated story?
I mean, valuation is, we see Meta. I think Meta is shifting now, right? Hopefully it's shifting now. Everybody, I don't know why people hate on Meta. I think Meta has massive opportunities. Microsoft, same way. I mean, they have a massive AI cloud business. Many people think, oh, you're just working with OpenAI. They have all solutions. They work with Anthropic. They're like every other cloud that just has kind of the gateway. It doesn't matter who wins in the AI model race. Microsoft is going to have your solution with you. Right? They have Anthropic, they have DeepSeek, they have whoever. So I think Microsoft is also another great opportunity. And the only thing is they do have that software market, and the software sentiment is still negative, I guess, in that space. But long term, I really enjoy all the Mac 7s except Apple.
All right, Mr. Jose, thank you for being on. You have absolutely not been replaced. So I'm happy.
Hopefully I get dinner soon. Chad, you got to remind them.
Yeah, we got to, now that I'm here for the rest of the summer, so we will definitely make sure we do a dinner, and we'll connect in person. There's Jose's Twitter. Make sure to follow him, his YouTube as well in the chat. Thank you, Mr. Jose. We'll talk to you next week.
Take care, man. Bye.
Later. Okay, that is what we got. Again, this Trump tweet came in the middle of the trading day right here, that the ceasefire is over. I think once again, Trump's trying to negotiate by saying that he's not going to comply with the initial framework of the negotiation. And I mean, I also think he's basically saying, hey, we're going to attack you again, even if we're willing to talk to you. Markets were red as soon as he announced it. They are starting to recover. Individual stocks like SoFi are getting hit right now, but SPY went to 748, right back to 751. So basically unaffected. And yeah, it's just been a weird day across the board. Even NVIDIA losing a majority of its pump now, still up at 205, but I feel like it's one of those Fridays where you're not going to get a ton of movement up or down. Everything's pretty flat. I mean, Meta, obviously the biggest move today, but that's based on headlines from yesterday. Nebius down, Corning down, Accelera getting hit, 8.7%. Google looking like it wants to test 350. Yeah, financials and defensives are up, but outside of that, everything's down. Netflix, 73. Crude, even on that Trump tweet, crude did not get hit to the upside. It's 71.87. It's below where it was in the pre-market. So I feel like markets are just really ignoring every Iran headline, even though there will be a knee-jerk reaction. I mean, look at that candle on SPY when Jose was talking. That's 752 all the way to 749 within 5 minutes, right back to 752.40. This doesn't seem like they care as much. I don't know when this SK Hynix thing is getting listed, but it's probably hours from now, which means, yeah, we're likely not going to be able to see this live, but later throughout the day, we should get some understanding of it. Also, guys, there will not be a close today. I will be out of town. I'm going to be in New York City for a bit in a few hours, so there will not be a close today. We will be back for the Sunday futures. I know we haven't done Sunday futures in the past couple of weeks. Obviously very busy, just traveling and stuff, but Sunday futures will be back. And yeah, the only thing happening towards the end of the day is this SK Hynix Open, but outside of that, it feels like a relatively just non-exciting day for many stocks going up or down. Steve will not be able to do the close as well. Steve is also a bit busy today. We will have a new basis points out though. So basis points will be out probably 6, 7 p.m. Eastern. And we went through everything around Meta, Micron earnings, all that stuff. It's not another vacation. It's actually work. We're not doing vacation. But we will be gone near the end of the day. Yeah, this is such an interestingly boring day. And it's boring for reasons that I guess should be acceptable. I mean, honestly, remember that I think it was like a 2-month stretch back in 2025 where like nothing happened every day. I wonder if we're in that phase of the market where you're not seeing crazy green every day, crazy red every day, where it's just purely boring price action. Because we had that stretch in 2025. This was before the sort of October run up into the soybean comments that then created the downside move. And would it really surprise anybody? A lot of stocks have made a lot of moves. Even the sort of beat up names have not all of them recovered, but definitely started to make somewhat of it. I mean, SoFi's not 15 anymore. Hood's not 60 anymore. Meta's not 500 anymore. So it's like maybe they all consolidate. It's just every day you have a crazy headline like SK Hynix going public. Like that stuff creates a lot more volatility, which would make you think we are going to be anything but bored here. It's not the dentist. It's not the dentist. Thankfully, it's not the dentist. We don't have to go back to the dentist, hopefully, for a while. Cheesecake Factory, is that up? Cheesecake Factory is up today. Okay, so I guess Cheesecake getting the bid. What price do you think is a good entry for GLW? 160 has. So I bought it around 195 a while ago. This was like a month and a half ago. 160 is when NVIDIA announced the deal that they're investing in them, which has been really the price I wanted to add again, or at least 165, 170. I don't feel like 187 is that much of a discount from 195. It ran up nicely and then came all the way back down. And the fact that it ran up that much, I think, showed the potential of how the market could be pricing it. But the problem is photonics as an industry kind of took a breather the past month. I mean, Lumentum went from what, 1,100 at the top? This thing was at, 1,058 down to 687 at one point. So the fiber optics narrative around Corning, got hit with it. Having said that, to Jose's point, if you believe in this AI build out, the names that are down right now, like the NeoClouds, Photonics plays, if you think they're going to be important and they're red, that's the time to nibble here. Bloom is just expensive, dude. I have thought about buying Bloom because of they're the only ones really doing fuel cell technology that has proven they can make multi-billion-dollar deals with the biggest companies in the world, like Oracle or Brookfield, to expand their partnerships. It's just the thing has run a lot. Again, it was $3 a year and a half ago. And the multiple is quite expansive here. But I think if you own Bloom, it's not like a sell. It's just entry into this is a little tougher. Is it 1 p.m. Eastern confirmed? It's not confirmed 1 p.m., but that's probably the best bet that it's going to be 1 p.m. That's usually when the IPOs go live. And so we have to see if that ends up playing out there. Microsoft is cutting 3,000 jobs in their Xbox division. Microsoft has started to have a lot more layoffs in different places. I think it's almost like 1.5% of the entire company. We know Meta went through layoffs. We know Square did layoffs. We know Amazon has had massive layoffs. Now you're seeing a little bit more of Microsoft. Does the market need to sell to buy SK Hynix? I don't think so. That 30 billion of liquidity can come from a lot of places. I don't think the market needs to fall dramatically. I mean, the market didn't even budge for SpaceX, right? Like SpaceX came and went, and it's not like it took down the market with it. In fact, I think SPY is trading at a higher level than what it was the day SpaceX went public, which was around that 740 range as SPY flips green right here. So I don't think that would be the concern. That's last week's news. Oh, that just came across my feed today. Well, we didn't cover it last week because I wasn't live, but yes, they are firing some more people. Amazon made some news yesterday with the UPS logistics narrative continuing to be in their wheelhouse here as they are continuing to vertically integrate customers and the supply chains that they have to deliver products to those customers by lowering their pricing. Another bull case for Amazon, but once again, it does give them a little hit on their margins, which the street has ignored to allow them to grow. And not the most bullish for FedEx and UPS, but obviously it is something that long-term does pay off. By the way, Berkshire, we have an update on their net cash, $397 billion. So Berkshire still has plenty of room to go shopping if they want to do that shopping. 400 billion. It's a decent chunk of cash. Also, this chart I thought was really interesting. So corporate insiders on the tech sector have been buying their own stocks at a record pace. The figure has doubled since the start of 2026. In comparison to 2025, 5 executives were buyers. In 2026, you were having almost 25. So it's a significant amount more that are buying. Now, you have seen a ton of insider selling over the past 2 months, as you've seen more and more transactions, or at least filings for transactions, like Vlad filed to sell 375,000 shares the other day. The Bloom Energy guys have been selling. The CoreWeave guys have been selling. But in the tech sector in particular, you've had some really big insider buys, like the trade desks, like Palo Alto CEO. And so there is more appetite. And even Robinhood had, there was an insider who bought on board of directors, bought like $80 million worth of shares. So you do have a decent chunk of the tech guys still wanting to buy. All right. So what else? Yeah, ServiceNow as well with Bill McDermott. He's up on that. He bought it at 103. He was bag holding for a bit, but now stock's at 107 as that continues to go up. Rocket Lab CEO is selling. So you have some buying and then some selling more. Oh, Celsius insiders are buying as well. Oh, you're right. This was like a month ago. Yeah, Celsius insiders are buying as well. What would be the entry points we need to look at for unprofitable companies such as Optics Energy and so on? What are the metrics? I think when you're trying to buy a stock that is unprofitable or a company that's unprofitable, you're trying to look at the trajectory towards profitability. I have this belief fundamentally around stocks that the market wakes up when they produce net income, because many stocks, when you become a big boy company, are priced on the growth of that net income and the ratio of the trajectory for the growth for that net income. So I think it's totally fine to buy a company that's not profitable, but there has to be a framework to see when that profitability eventually gets into fruition. So with a name in the optics space that's unprofitable, like a Poet, I think you have to look at a lot of the fundamental catalysts that the stock has to get to profitability, but also you have to look at what is so special about this stock that it deserves to be in a portfolio. I mean, like if you were buying like a laundromat, you know, or a grocery store or like a small business, you would want to know that it's profitable, right? Unless it's growing like 1,000x year over year. If you're buying a real business, you want to see, hey, at the end of the day, after all my expenses, what comes down to me? And the reason people forego profitability in the stock market and buy unprofitable stocks is because growth is what is subsidizing the level of unprofitability. And the growth is so expansive that eventually when the profits come, the growth will slow down, but the profits will be so gigantic because you've captured market share. So, if I'm looking at an unprofitable stock, I would be like, all right, at what point do I think this growth will slow down, and how much market share will they have got? More importantly, how much will their operating margins have increased, which creates all the leverage, which is kind of exactly what happened with Hood, right? They were unprofitable for 2 years, but they gained so much market share and so much operating leverage that once they flipped on the switch of being profitable, same thing with Palantir, the shares really skyrocketed. And I think that's the question there. Rocket Lab, for example, I think it's 3 cents away from being GAAP net income profitable, but the reason it gets a premium, like a 70 times sales premium on its stock, is because they've had so many updates. Anduril partnership, Raytheon partnership, Iridium acquisition, like so many things they've done. But investors are willing to subsidize that growth or that unprofitability because of their growth, because they know once Rocket Lab becomes profitable, it will be a printing machine of cash, theoretically, in the long term, because in the short term, they've captured so much of the market. So that would be the kind of the way I think about it if you can't use a traditional price to earnings ratio. Netflix right there, 73.07. Nebius flips green. Okay, Nabisis right there, 217.58. Elon's getting interviewed today. Is he? Are they actually? He hasn't done an interview in a while. SK Hynix 11:30. It looks like that's what they're targeting. So let's see. We got 15 minutes. If we actually do get it at 11:30. Oh yeah, Elon. They will be interviewing Elon today. Okay, so we'll get some new quotes. I wonder if he's getting interviewed, then he's probably trying to talk about something. Maybe SpaceX, maybe XAI, maybe Grok new models. SPY getting a candle right there, a little bit of green. NVIDIA getting a candle right there. Micron getting a candle as well. Meta. Is this SK Hynix IPO going to pump all the semis? Maybe that's potentially what we see. I think CNBC seems to be interviewing Elon later today. The Qs also flipped green. And NVIDIA is trying to go back to 208. If the SK Hynix thing... Okay, so this could be a fake pump to create liquidity for SK Hynix, get a lot of people excited, flood into the market. Or this could be what the market's been waiting for all day. Instead of SK Hynix taking away liquidity, it's adding liquidity. And that's what flips us green today. Let's see. Maybe that happens here. Trying to see if there's any other macro updates we have. We don't have anything with jobs data. Oh, it's going to be... Yeah, it's just Elon. It's just Elon today. It's not like he's doing it with the SpaceX COO or anything. U.S. is in active conversations with Iran through mediators led by Qatar. Iran's foreign minister has been speaking with Qatar's prime minister. The talks are focused on de-escalation. The IRGC has tried to charge ships fees to use the lane. Kushner, Witkoff, Vance are involved. U.S. official says the railways Iran used to move military supplies were among the targets. The memorandum of understanding was meant to reopen the trade route and last roughly until August 18th. Okay, it was the Pakistanis a month ago. Then it was the Turks. Now it's the Qataris trying to fix relations here, as Meta is trying to get up to 672. Palantir getting hit. This was at 132 the other day. They're taking the software names down again. Oh, wow. So remember Oh, let's look at this. FCC chairman right now is live explaining their investigation into The View, which is that show on ABC owned by Disney. Let's see what he's saying about this.
A months-long FCC investigation into The View, and as the agency reviews ABC's local station licenses. Two separate issues there. Let's talk about both. Joining us here first on a CNBC is FCC Chairman Brendan Carr. Chair Carr, welcome back. It's good to have you.
Yeah, good to be with you. Thanks.
So the big headline in this filing that came from Disney and ABC this week is that they said that the FCC has already ruled on this back in 2002, that it is a bona fide news program, is therefore exempt. What's different now?
Well, the 2002 was a staff level decision that was based on representations made in the record all the way back in 2002. And so there's a question of, is the program still the same today as it was back then? That's exactly what has been teed up for the public to weigh in on. And what we're seeing is a lot of people expressing some concern or at least skepticism that The View with co-hosts Whoopi Goldberg and others is a bona fide news program, just like any other sort of standard bona fide news program like Meet the Press. I think, Versant and every other news organization has their own internal standards for the news side. And I can imagine, maybe you can tell me that if you were to go on air right now and endorse a particular political candidate or say that we're in an existential crisis and the House or the Senate must flip, do you think that the news standards at Versant would allow you to do that?
I don't think I would be allowed to do that, but I do think it gets to this question, which I'm not sure how it's defined, which is what is news? And how are you defining that?
Yeah, the FCC has
a lot of people get their news from watching The View.
Yeah, the FCC has a long-standing test on that, which is newsworthiness, which is, are the decisions that are being made at these organizations designed to promote partisan political purposes, or are they based on newsworthiness? And again, nobody is saying that people can't watch The View and get news and information from it, but rather it's a very narrow question of whether it's a bona fide news program under the law, because the general rule is if you're a broadcaster, you have to provide equal political opportunity to all legally qualified candidates. And again, one of the things that Disney has been doing throughout this is misrepresenting the nature of the rule. Even if The View is not a bona fide news program, we haven't decided that yet, that wouldn't dictate that they have to have any particular candidate on the show. Rather, the rule just means that the TV station has to provide comparable time and placements. They would still retain discretion, even if the FCC were to rule against them.
But I guess
This is kind of weird, dude. It's weird the FCC is going after this. I mean, it brings up so many subjective questions about other news stations. I don't know. This is one of those things where it's like, all right, I guess you could spend time on this, but I also don't know if most Americans care about The View going into the midterms when they're making a decision.
Broader worry there is that it would create a chilling effect on this program and other programs and influence decisions and potentially hesitation around booking political candidates. In fact, if you look over the last few months since you've launched this investigation, they haven't actually had too many candidates for office, perhaps because they're worried about what you're going to do about it.
Well, one of the arguments that Disney and other broadcasters are making really goes to the heart of the bargain that Congress struck on behalf of the American people. So the idea was that unlike a cable channel, broadcasters get their spectrum, their forms of distribution for free, effectively subsidized because they're using taxpayer resources. But in exchange, the American people, all of them, get something back, which is broadcasters operating the public interest and complying with unique obligations, including political equal opportunities. Again, if broadcasters don't like that, that's okay. They can become a cable channel. They can become a podcast. They can stream online. But if you want to uniquely be on the public's airwaves, you have to comply with those obligations. But if they don't want to, there's other ways they can continue to operate.
I think they want to. I mean, they cited, you just cited some of the responses. They cited overwhelming support in the responses, and which you said that they orchestrated a misinformation campaign. So should they not have rallied public support?
Well, those are all decisions that Disney is free to make. At the end of the day, we're going to make our decision based on the facts and the record that's developed at the agency. And again, the Disney issue and the media docket more broadly is ultimately a small part of what we do at the FCC. We have a much bigger agenda that we're running. I know the media likes to focus on the media stuff, but we have a really important economic agenda. In fact, we're voting just next week or the week after to open up a huge swath of spectrum in the C-band that's called create effectively a mid-band super band of spectrum. And that's going to be used to drive down prices for consumer, to increase competition. And we're really excited about that economic agenda.
All right, Disney has been under pressure for a while from this political angle. Disney stock right there, flat on the day. Has Disney done anything this year? There was another headline that Disney is looking to offer a free tier of Disney Plus, similar to what Netflix has done. Disney's down 14% this year. And so you've got these political headwinds with the FCC, and then you also have subscriber growth that's obviously slowing down across all of the media enterprises right here. But, you know, the Trump administration obviously focusing more on some of this cultural stuff, where I wonder, again, in the midterms, is the argument going to be about affordability, Iran, illegal immigration? Like, what is going to be the Republican talking point? What's also going to be the Democratic talking point to, you know, justify who ends up controlling the House and the Senate? Here's an update as well on that Trump tweet for the ceasefire.
Agreed to do so, but the United States has stated to them in no uncertain terms that the ceasefire is over in all caps right there, guys. So this goes a little bit further from what we were hearing from the president earlier this week. When he was at the NATO summit, he was saying, yes, in his mind, the ceasefire was over. He was also saying there that negotiations could continue. The last time that he was asked by reporters directly whether this meant the U.S. and Iran were returning to full-scale war, he said on Air Force One, I don't know. He's not saying in this post whether this means full-scale war is resuming, but clearly now saying it's definitely over. He's also repeatedly throughout the week cast doubt on the idea that talks will get anywhere. He says he doesn't trust the Iranians. He's called them names like scum this week and said that he doesn't know if any deal that they reached would even stick. So he's also said that Iran has called asking for a deal. Here he says the talks are continuing, but the ceasefire is over. Guys, we're in this sort of new stage with the president where the diplomatic solution hasn't worked. This MOU is clearly crumbling, but the bombing hasn't worked either. Iran hasn't capitulated in the way that the White House would like to see. Now we're sort of in this new stage. We'll have to see where the White House takes things next. Guys.
Did you get any comment, has the White House commented on this report from the Journal that Israel shared new intelligence with the U.S. of a new Iranian plan to kill President Trump?
A fascinating report from the Journal. No, we haven't heard from the White House or from the president directly on that. But the interesting context around it is that it came just after, when the president was at NATO, he several times appeared to refer to the idea that he was on some assassination lists. He said, you know, he's number one on TikTok was the context. He said he preferred being number one on TikTok instead of being the number one on kill lists. It was also the same day that he ended up not taking the new Air Force One from Turkey back to the UK, back to the US even. He boarded it ultimately in the UK, and the reporting there was that that was due to security concerns as well. The Journal putting a finer point on that with this reporting. We haven't seen the White House or the president respond to it directly since it was published.
Megan, thank you. Megan Casella in.
It is a very weird moment of time in this Iran war now. As she said, the bombing's not really getting them to capitulate. Diplomacy is out the window. Trump affirming that the ceasefire is over, but probably doesn't want the ceasefire to be over. NVIDIA trying to go for 209, high of day, as S&P flips green as well. Nebius also flipping green. Okay, so SK Hynix should be 2 minutes, right? I mean, if it's literally, I'm seeing most of my sources say 11:30, maybe it's 11:35. Indication to be 172 versus 149. Let's see if that pumps up the broader market. Let's also see how much demand there really is for this thing at the gate. We saw SpaceX do 150 to 230 in the first week. I think it did 150 to 161 on the first day. And the space names did tank when SpaceX went public, so I wonder how the other memory names do with SK Hynix, but maybe it's going to be catalyst for everybody. 981 on Mr. Micron. Amit's show to rival The View will be called The Yap. You know, that's a hell of a name. It's a hell of a name, to be honest. I think I think The Yap would be, it's basically what we do here every day. That would be fun. There'll be new basis points out later tonight, probably around 6, 7 p.m. It will be up. The ticker for SK is SKYH. X. What is the ticker? SKHVY. SKHYV. It's 5 letters. SKHYV. SKHY, is that also it? Yeah, SKHY. Okay, so SKHY should work as well. Okay, let's see. 11:30. We should be getting it any second now. In the chat, if you're buying it, I should do a poll on that. If you are buying this or not. Let's see if it gets a pumpy pump. If it makes today a bit more exciting here. Or if it's not doing anything. Okay, are you buying SK Hynix? Still don't have it yet. Probably should be happening soon. We'll see if we can get some coverage on this one. 170 now, not 172, 170. So let's see once it's there what it ends up coming. Q's flipping fully green. So is NVIDIA. So is SPY. Yeah, I mean, this thing is at perps on the decentralized platforms for a while. That's fair. Let me see if it's actually on Hyperliquid. That might give us an indication as well. Because this one was trading SpaceX a while ago. SK. I don't see it on Hyperliquid. Oh, wait, no, I do. There it is. 190. No. 149.50. Okay, so the perps are just using the same listing price right here, 149. All right, so we're going to see how it adjusts now whenever it goes in. Again, DRAM has already had exposure to this for a while, so technically do own this if you have DRAM. But this will be the ADR version. 10 of these shares will be one full SK Hynix share. So 10 ADRs gives you one share. To 169 on Hyperliquid. Well, let me refresh. Oh, you're right. You are right. Okay, so but that's the 170 opening that Bloomberg's. Okay, so 170, 169, 170 probably should be where we get the open whenever we get it. Bloomberg once again saying 170 is what they're expecting. Do you think Meta breaks past 700 today? I would not be betting on that. I could see it happening. There would just have to be a real surge of excitement. 700 is such a psychological trigger that, I mean, 670, I feel like is enough. And should make most Meta shareholders at least happy today. SPY 753, Nebius 218. Meta again 674. I got Hood banking today, 3.5% on checking accounts. So sick, moving out of Bank of America into Hood fully now. Yeah, I've been using it for the past month. Again, they don't have business banking. That's the only issue, but they don't have Zelle. They need to add those two things. But outside of that, this transferring money, wiring money, like it's a really enjoyable experience with a lot less hassle. Also, looking at these Trump accounts, I mean, like these accounts look beautiful in terms of the UI, and all of that is Robinhood. So it is pretty cool that they've played such a big role in the process. 67% of you are saying no. So it's about 70-30 on the nose here for Mr. SK Hynix. Let's see if we get a little bit of coverage here. And then I think the next few minutes, this thing is so much.
Great volatility, but not a terrible outcome. You look at Cerebras, a chip maker that went public a number of weeks ago. Similar, tremendous opening for.
Did he just say Cerebras? There's no way he said Cerebras. Hold on. It's Cerebrus.
Really, other than been betting on Elon and kind of putting that idea together. SK Hynix does still trade in South Korea. So there at least is some floor and some real sense of valuation. And this is a company that's been public for quite some time. As Ed had mentioned, the big question to your point, though, we saw SpaceX open and trade much higher in the first 2 days and still trading around where it initially opened at. That's not great volatility, but not a terrible outcome. You look at Cerebras, a chip maker that went public a number of weeks ago.
That's crazy. I've had some bad ones. I did not say Sarah's bras, which is what it sounded like. Okay, are we live? I think we are live. Yes, we are live. 170, folks. 170 is what we've got. 14%. So that's a 21% increase already to the listing price. It was 7x oversubscribed, as this has officially gone public right here. Not the 170. Here we go.
Carl, we actually hit it. So the shares have opened in the United States, listing roughly at 172, 173 right now. So that's about 15% higher than the listing price of 149. They were waiting for that volume to come in. They had about 11 million shares that traded hands. That's why they opened right now. You can see shares popping at 174, so up 17% now, higher than that 149 level. There is a lot of liquidity in this market for this company. It's well known. It is listed in South Korea first. There are ADRs in Europe as well. It is the leader in high bandwidth memory, so it's an opportunity for U.S. investors to get a piece of that pure play memory maker. And yes, Micron is a huge competitor, built here on U.S. soil. But when it comes to high bandwidth memory and the connection with NVIDIA, that's where SK Hynix dominates. So this is an opportunity. You're seeing a movement. There's going to be passive income coming in too in the coming months. We should have to account for that. Demand, let's say in the next September onwards, Barclays is estimating anywhere to $14 billion of extra money once SK Hynix gets added to these indices. But you can see the demand is there, liquidity is there. It's 11:36. Normally, sometimes this takes till 1 p.m. Eastern time to actually open. Today's shares are opening 14% higher, guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they need the money. They've got a pretty stellar balance sheet. I think 70% operating margins right now. Clearly, times are good. But on the question of valuation, Christina, remind us, because that's a big part of it, right? That they would get a higher premium trading in the United States than they get in South Korea, even though it's up, 600% in the last 12 months.
Yeah, in terms of, if we just look at the forward P, often that's what the sell side guys and all the notes they're using. They're like, this is so much cheaper, but that gap between SK Hynix and Micron has actually been shrinking. And the reason why there was such a gap is because American investors just couldn't access the South Korean shares. You could do it maybe in a more unique and difficult ways, but in general, you just couldn't. And the argument is that perhaps now that it's listed here in the United States, that gap may change a little bit because people are realizing SK Hynix has a presence here. About $4 billion going to be spent in Indiana. We heard from the chairman. He said that they're going to be investing more. He didn't give any financial number, but he said that they're looking at more investments. We know that the Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, is pushing the group to invest more, especially with Micron announcing that they're going to be expanding $50 billion more here in the United States. So that should help, the supply and demand conversation in terms of valuation. It could affect it too. But right now, SK Hynix is still relatively cheaper than Micron when you're just looking at the forward PE.
It's going to be interesting, too, next week after a couple of days, Christina, when the options market can start to inaugurate some of those tools and we start looking for leveraged ETFs like we have with the MUU, for example.
Yeah, so the options market will start on Tuesday, and the reason for that is that pricing happened last night, so Thursday, so it's pricing plus 3 days because of the Korea situation. So that's why shares today, for anybody watching, don't make that mistake, SKHYV, that V will disappear as of Monday. All of the shares that you're buying will actually settle on Tuesday, and so that's why you're seeing the ball roll with the options market. But that means leverage, right? Leverage that we saw in South Korea. There's all of those ETFs that, 2x, 3x levered. That really contributes a lot of the volatility in the share price.
Volume is 27 million in the first 4 minutes of it going public.
And once those open up here in the United States, we can expect the same. We could even say that's the entire, like that's so much of the market in the United States. There's so many levered ETFs that we need to account for. And so SK Hynix is no different, especially when it comes to memory and it being the hottest topic. And, there's not enough supply out there. We have to account for that volatility that could weigh in as soon as Tuesday.
And that's ultimately the thesis, right? I mean, just like Micron and why we've seen Micron soar, it's interestingly down 2% today. But the whole story, Christina, about when memory chip supply catches up with demand. What is SK Hynix saying?
I know. So that is, sorry, it's a great question. And I feel like we just don't answer it enough, or maybe we're not accounting for it. We, meaning I'm a reporter, but the estimates on the street. So you have SK Hynix is saying they're going to double capacity in the next 5 years. They're spending over $720 billion to build at least like 4 giant fabs in South Korea. They're going to be spending elsewhere. They've got fabs in China as well, 2 major cities over there. So that's coming online in 5 years. Then you have, competitor CXMT in China, not the same quality. Obviously, there's going to be some restrictions, but we know that Apple is looking to them, right? And if Apple's looking to them, maybe other players are too. So that means more supply. And then for Micron, they're building here in the United States, no doubt. But, and maybe it'll take within the next 2 years. I don't remember the exact time of when that plant will open. But that means supply is coming. And so when I asked Chairman Shea of the SK Group, the conglomerate that runs SK Hynix, he said, even if I say doubling, and I'm paraphrasing, doubling in the next 5 years, our customers are still saying that's not enough. So that seems, Sarah, to be the argument that, capacity is coming online, but don't worry, it's not going to create a huge drop and a boom and bust cycle that we've seen in the past. I don't know. It's just, do you believe that narrative that this is not a commoditized market and that the boom and bust cycle no longer exists because so many customers are signing these long-term agreements that go anywhere between 3 and 5 years?
Yes, the definition of it's different this time. We will see, Christina. This is an important day, though. Great to have you there. Christina Partsinevelos doing a great job covering Hynix today. When we come back, former Tesla President John McNeil.
Okay, there it is. The levered memory bet that has made a lot of South Koreans rich has made its way to the United States. Mr. Matt Money, thank you for the gift of 10 memberships. Appreciate you, Mr. Matt Money. There it goes, folks. 171.43 up 15%. It did hit 175. Volume is now 32.3 million. So really, if you were an institutional investor, and I guess you got that 149 price, like the 135 SpaceX price, you're up 20%. You're probably happy. If you got to buy it at the open, you're either break even or you're waiting for this thing to pop, into the 180s. 170 is lost. We're now at 168. 167, 166. Wow, this is very volatile. 34.9 million shares, market cap 1.02 trillion as this officially goes public. Our boy Matt Money does have Micron in his portfolio for the stock draft. Micron is down. I have SanDisk in my portfolio. SanDisk is also down. It's down from 1917 to 1856. Micron's down from about 990 to 955. So you're seeing the other memory plays. Let's see Western Digital. That's down 1.2%. Seagate. I wouldn't say they're tanking. Seagate's actually green. But they're definitely not trading in accordance with SK Hynix right here, up 13%. 169.40. What about DRAM? Is DRAM up? DRAM is down. All right, NVIDIA just tagged 209.50, right back down to 207. Nebius was at 207 right when it went public. Now it's at 215. Incredibly volatile moves. Bloom Energy getting destroyed. That's down 10%. Cerebras up 7.1. SoFi just below 19. HPE up 0.21. Yeah, I guess people might be selling the other memory names to buy some SK Hynix. Broadcom also losing 400. Right there as well. Yeah, I mean, look, Micron was at this price yesterday, so it is taking a tumble from where it was a few hours ago, but it's not like we haven't seen this price. 957, down about 3.2. Okay, that's what we got. Sumit, do you own Qualcomm? Yes, bought it last week, 186 for the first time after the investor day. SK Hynix a little weak, huh? 167. I mean, I know it's up from the IPO price, but we got to really see buyers step in right here, because if you bought at the open, you're down. Like the open was 170, 171. You had 5 minutes to exit at 176 if you're trading it. If not, then it's really not showing that big. Now, granted, SpaceX did this too. Before intraday, it went up like $12. It actually ended up going all the way back to where it was in the early minutes of it IPOing by the end of the day, but it still made a move. Like if you bought it at 150, you had like a nice 15-20% pop. If you obviously got it at 135, you had a really big pop. So I wonder, the people buying it at 170, 169, do they get a $10, $15 pop here towards the end of the day? Okay, that's what we got. That's crazy, dude. He said Cerebras. Like, I've said some bad names, but he said Cerebras, which is pretty incredible. I mean, I would have got destroyed if I called Cerebras one day in front of you guys. Robinhood 112, Poets down, ServiceNow also goes down. Also goes down. Mid, how big of a position do you have in Meta? It is the second largest Mag 7 exposure for me behind NVIDIA, which is why this year has not been fun with Meta. After Meta, it's Amazon. But, I mean, I was buying a decent chunk of it in this 670 range, 670 to 690 before the earnings last time. So I had high hopes for the earnings last time. It didn't work out. Obviously, came tumbling down. So for me, it's like, you know, breaking even here. It's not like I'm up massively on the position, but after NVIDIA, it's Meta. I'm just a little skeptical, dude, because every time it makes these big moves, like I'm happy it's not in the 550s anymore, but every time it makes these big moves, something happens where they don't let this thing really have the run. Like, you know, they let Google take off last year. They obviously have not let Amazon or Meta take off. Apple, they let take off this year. Apple's been a great bet. But I feel like the growth, and part of the reason I've been buying it is because when I saw the revenue projections of 33% in February for Q1, I was like, this has to be a no-brainer. Like, it has to be a no-brainer. And obviously, if I'd used my brain, I would have bought Google instead, because Google was like 320 at the time. But I think it'll be okay. I am worried, though, that it's made such a big move that, you know, there's a lot of people that have been bag holding all year and they're going to sell. I believe in the thesis. I don't want to sell here at break even. I think this stock should be trading closer to 750, 800, but we're going to have to freaking see. Did anyone trade it? Put in the chat. Did anyone buy it? Anyone make some money on this thing? SK Hynix, 171. All right, back from 167. That's a $4 move already. Made a little bit of move. I have not traded this at all. I don't know, dude. It's hard to trade the opening IPOs. You just don't know where it's going to go. I've not touched it. Not trading this one. 170, 178. Just momentum goes both ways, man. Momentum gets ugly here. This thing could fall. It gets nice. It goes up. There's not much TA you can do on this. I mean, it's not above VWAP yet. You don't really have support and resistance, given it just went public. So it is really more like gambling today, I would say. Like, I think it's going to go up, so you buy it, which you might be right, and maybe the momentum is there. But I don't know. It's a little harder, I think, to have a thesis on trading it. I'm in at 175, planning exit at 200. I wonder, so 200 is also going to be very psychological, but I also wonder at what point does it trade with Micron? Because the algos are going to peg this thing to Micron, to SanDisk, and they will have days where it goes up a lot more, goes down a lot more. But on balance, I mean, Kospi is literally pegged to Micron and SanDisk, right? If Kospi has a red day, you know the American markets for memory are going to be red, and then the momentum trade is going to be red, and then as a result of that, the semis are going to be red. So they're already so intercorrelated. It would be kind of hard to see SK Hynix completely diverge, even though the valuation is cheaper than Micron. So maybe the divergence would be filling the gap in market cap. But we've got to see. Microsoft still red. A few people in here trading it. A couple people made $35. Hey, that's lunch. $35 is lunch in Singapore because that place is expensive. Made $35 on a trade. That's some lunch. Yeah, I thought lunch in Jersey City was expensive, dude. Goodness. Now in Indonesia, dude, Indonesia, we had a really fancy dinner. 4 people, multiple drinks, 4 big meals, appetizers, desserts. It was $137. It's like, goodness, dude. 137. I had a nice steak. I had a white wine. I couldn't believe it, man. In New York, the Uber to get to the restaurant is $137. It's just a totally different perspective on where your money goes. SK Hynix 171, tapped 170, and back to 171. It needs to break 175, I think, for this to take off. That's just what my gut says. It needs to break 175, and then maybe 180. We got a chance. Nathan says I'm in the trade right now. Oh, Elon is going to be live in 10 minutes. All right, we might as well stay for Elon. We might as well stay for Elon. Do have to leave definitely at 12:30 because I got to get out of here. That's why we will not be doing the market close today. I have to go to New York City to do some stuff. So 12:30 is the cutoff, but yeah, we might as well stay live for Elon right here. Did you use Grab? Yes, we use Grab a lot of times in Singapore and Indonesia. 170, it's not really, it's kind of just stuck there, bro. This is the hard part about trying to take a trade on this. Like, you would think the institutions are incentivized enough to keep this afloat and really have it pop. But then you also just don't know. And if it gets ugly here, it could, could be a quick downside move. Can you short this thing? Do they allow shorting it? Let's see. There's no options on it yet. Nebius still red. No, actually flipped green. Palantir, a little bit of green right there. No, I don't think. Okay, my broker is not allowing me to short it. I don't know if you guys can short it, but I don't think it's able to be shorted here. Amit, what do you think of the new 2 US ETFs listed ex-Elon companies? That was kind of funny. So we didn't cover the story this morning, but there has been a filing for an ETF ex-Elon. So it's like the stock market, but not Elon. The funds are called ex-Elon Enterprises ETF. The fund excludes any company founded, controlled, or led by Musk, citing governance concerns and political risk. So it's the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100 besides Elon, which is, I wonder if this thing can actually get some AUM and if people hate Elon that much to buy this thing, which is, again, the stock market ex-Elon. So if they get $1 billion in AUM, they will split that $1 billion across the entire weighting of the S&P and the NASDAQ, just not SpaceX and Tesla. So we're going to have to see if that actually picks up AUM. Nebius 217. At least we're starting to see some volume come into the semi names that have been dead. There you go. SK Hynix 172. This is where it got rejected last time, right around this range. So this is really important for it to get the breakout. Let's see that red candle right back at 172.20. This is where it gets hit for the past 30 minutes. BTC, are we moving with SK? BTC 63,950. That's actually going down. Seagate's the only US memory name that's up versus the rest. SK Hynix 172.50. As of now, it needs to really break that level. Feels like to get a move. I wonder, what do you guys think Elon's going to be talking about? He hasn't done an interview in a while. It's got to be about, I would say it's about XAI. I think he's going to be talking about their new models, maybe Optimus. Like, what do we think he really agreed to do the interview for? There's not been any big updates with Tesla recently. I mean, maybe going to talk more about SpaceX. Okay, 172.50 has been broken on SK. Now let's see if they let her take off the merger. She might ask about it. I don't know if he's going to confirm it. Has anyone gotten access to X Money? I haven't tried it yet, but they're giving a 6% APY. So obviously it's generating a ton of funds here and getting people excited. All right, 173. We break 175. Maybe they officially let her go. It's looking very similar to SpaceX price action the same day. I did see this. Elon said SpaceX will be worth more than the entirety of Earth. This was this was kind of funny. I mean, I hope he says that today live. It would be cool to see him literally say that, because he probably believes it. SpaceX will be worth more. Did he tweet that? I saw the headline here. I think he tweeted it. Oh yeah, here it is. Here it is. Someone had a bearish a tweet on SpaceX. 173 SK Hynix gets rejected. They're really making her stick to that $2 range right here. You don't seem to understand that SpaceX will be worth more than the rest of Earth if we accomplish our goals. Okay, so let's go to Gemini. How much is Earth worth? 5 quadrillion. I mean, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but SpaceX is only worth 2 trillion. If it's going to 5 quadrillion, that would be a pretty decent return. So maybe that's how this maybe that's how this plays out. It's a Kanye ass conversation. Oh my gosh. It's kind of funny, dude. More than Earth. Scotty, thanks for the super chat. Just bought some SKV, rolling the dice. Yeah, look, I think if it breaks 175, it might be off for the races, and that's where the trade to 180, 185 makes sense. It's just getting rejected in a really ugly way every couple bucks here, which makes me think it's a bit weaker. But then again, it really feels like a gamble because there's not much analysis you could do on this. Apple 313 as well. As that goes a little red. That's a good question. How much would SpaceX be worth? Okay, let's ask Gemini. How much would SpaceX be worth per share if the market cap was 5 quadrillion? $381,000 a share. I mean, look, it's only trading at 172 right now, or 149, so that would be quite the return. It would be quite the return if we can do that. That's crazy that AI was able to answer that quickly, dude. That's incredible. That is absolutely incredible. CapEx is worth it. Unless Gemini's lying to me. CapEx is worth it. Save this for when you turn 80. I hope he says that shit today, dude. That'd be funny. You know, it's funny on the All In podcast, Friedberg and Jason were arguing about job loss. And Friedberg's take, I agree with that the, AI is not going to create that crazy amount of substantial job loss to the point where everyone has to be afraid. But Jason had a really good point that there are some jobs that are definitely not going to exist in the future. And it's kind of crazy to act like, yeah, those jobs are going to be around. I mean, Elon himself has said work will be optional over the next 50 years. And so now you could not believe Elon there. Maybe that's taking it a bit too far. But I think the people that are like, yes, old jobs will survive are crazy. There are absolutely going to be some jobs that get automated away. Look at Upwork stock, look at Fiverr, look at Wix. Like there's a lot of these companies, freelancers, all this stuff that AI does the job for you. And those people just don't have the same level of demand. But it's also too doomeristic to be like every software engineer is going to be coded away. So there's got to be a nuance in the discussion. Elon is of the opinion that money will be meaningless, jobs will be meaningless because there will be such great abundance, which I think is a rather extreme take. But if that were to be the case, then obviously SpaceX and Tesla will be worth a lot. But I wonder what worth a lot even means if money doesn't have that much value. All right, Elon should be live pretty soon. Let's get it up. I am very curious to see why he agreed to do the interview. There's got to be some reason for why he's today, and we'll find out. Let's get a little bit of coverage on Apple as we get into Elon in a few minutes.
On-device AI. But a source in the region tells me that's not weighing on demand yet. AI remains a nice to have, but not much of a sales driver. Plus, iPhone users already have access to similar features through apps from DeepSeek, Alibaba, and ByteDance. The more immediate issue is the replacement cycle. Chinese consumers are now keeping smartphones for roughly 50 months, and the iPhone 17 has already captured much of the pent-up demand. And Counterpoint expects the overall China market to decline by double digits this year. So Apple is actually still holding up better than most, with preliminary global estimates showing volumes rising in the low single digits, while many rivals fall sharply year over year. And even though Apple has reportedly cut iPhone 17 production, part of that may be preparation for the next cycle, with suppliers told to reserve components for the iPhone 18 Pro models and Apple's first foldable phone. Guys?
Yeah, that's always the thing. It's gearing up for the next cycle. So is that potentially why the stock is at a record? Investors are getting excited about it too?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at a form factor change potentially if we get a foldable phone. And so that would be a huge advancement for them. And that is very popular in China. The larger screen sizes, you've seen that be a big seller with some of the other Chinese OEMs. So the thought process there is potentially that might drive upside that we haven't seen. What I will say is that video leaked of the iPhone 18, what they call a drop test. You see the phone dropping. It looks similar to the iPhone 17, so not a lot of buzz around that.
Yeah, that was an interesting leak. It's going to be fascinating, especially when earnings roll around. Thanks, Mac. Mackenzie Sagalos watching Apple. I can't take my eyes off the VIX below 15.5. I mean, I know the spread between index and single stock volatility is really wide, but that is.
All right, we don't have Elon live yet. We are still waiting. SK Hynix, Micron's getting some volume coming back. Micron, look at that, 954 to 972. Actually, Micron's been the trade, to be honest, on this SK news. If you got closer to the bottom, SK now, okay, now it looks like a little bit more of that bullish momentum's coming in. It broke through the level that it hit 20 minutes ago and 15 minutes ago. 176 intraday high. Maybe she's off. Elon, we are indeed still waiting. Okay, so we've been live for 3 hours. I have to go resolve my bladder, so we'll pull up CNBC. I'll be back in a few minutes, and we'll see when Elon goes live.
Because they found another use for the compute that they're buying, and they're building another business as well. But the others, that could really take the trade down quite a bit.
Kev, tech is the top sector this week. So the dip buyers, they showed up. You figured they would. You didn't know exactly when, but you figured they would, and they did. Michael Hartnett at Bank of America says the Mag 7 is still the key to this overall rally. He says, so long as the Mags, that is the Mag 7 ETF, let's show it to you, because he needs it to hold the 200-day moving average, 65, okay? As long as it holds 65. Can we see that, please? Can we see the Mags? ETF, investors will likely reload longs or bullishly rotate rather than retreat from risk assets. So there it is, 67.53. Needs to hold 65. How do you see this?
It's the right place to be because these are the companies. They're gravitating towards the companies that will deliver earnings. And I agree with everything Steve said about the setup because it's not just about whether or not companies beat, whether they beat by a penny, whether they beat the whisper number. I think everything comes down to guidance, what the expectations are. And if you don't deliver, we saw this with Samsung already this week, you're going to get slammed. So it'll be interesting to see which of the Mag 7 embrace the earnings reports and flourish and which ones suffer. But we know we'll get a little bit of both.
I agree totally with what Hartnett's saying. And we've been saying it for a couple of weeks. In fact, right after that Micron's earnings report, you remember the day after, you saw all the spenders, they were getting tagged as Micron was up and memory was running. For us, I looked at that as capitulation on the fear of CapEx. Not saying that CapEx on the next earnings report and it's higher than expected is not going to derail a name. Meta was our biggest concern out of the Mag 7. We've seen really that capitulation on the CapEx story has made a U-turn. And we've seen the Mag 7 really outperform since then. Our base call in the second half of the year is Mag 7 is going to outperform. I love what we're seeing in a name like NVIDIA waking up right here. I mean, it's basically maybe up 10% on the year, flat over the last month. It hasn't done anything. It's been digesting, holding the 200-day moving average, really constructive this week. Apple making highs. You know, we're getting cash to work for new clients that have come in and new monies that are coming in. I'm trading the target, NVIDIA, Broadcom. I think these are buys right here, and it's going to run.
Well, there is a lot of money that continues to flow into tech, more from the flow show from Bank of America, almost $19 billion into tech, which is on track for a record. I don't think that's going to surprise anybody, but you have...
Okay, SK's moving now. She's moving. 175.40. Elon's still not live yet. Micron also. There's that big candle. They're either going to let them ride or they're going to get rejected here. They're either going to let them ride or they're going to get rejected. This is the spot, as this is the intraday high. And if we get through this, I think we're going to... Micron just got above its VWAP. You're seeing the EMAs start to flip. I think this might potentially have some juice. And Nebius also going green. DRAM now flipping. Look at these candles on DRAM. SanDisk just flipped green. Broadcom just flipped green. 176. Okay, yeah, I think they're gonna let her go. Unless they... So 176.17 was the intraday high. 176.34. Oh, we touched 177. Okay, they touched it for a second. But it feels like it could be coming back. 176.36. Meta's losing it as the semis come back. NVIDIA gaining more. The Q's flipping green. NVIDIA touched 210 for a second. Elon's still not live yet. We'll flip once he's there. But yeah, I mean, look, if it can hold on to this level, it should be a successful... I mean, look, even if it goes back to 170, it's a successful IPO. We just have to see. It can actually hold it. Why is NVIDIA up? Well, I think SK Hynix is just super bullish AI trade in general. And maybe that's what could push NVIDIA. Elon, maybe he says some stuff about memory. He's commented about memory before. If they ask him, like, what do you think about the memory shortage? He said that, you know, we need to build as much capacity as possible, given the terafab that he wants to build is going to need a lot of memory. So we're going to have to see. All right, Elon, is he live? I think he should be showing up pretty soon.
As a new buy, correct?
We added this to the growth portfolio. We have not owned Meta for some time. And for the past 2 years, it's been a constant criticism of their AI spend. And I think what the pivot was this week for us is that now they're going from just blindly spending to a path, at least, for how they can produce revenue within this AI, ecosystem that they're building out. So I like a lot of the things that they're doing. Whether or not the Muse Spark 1.1 is anything that really translates to profitability, I don't know. The fact that they're able to sell some of their space within their compute makes them a competitor to some of the things that we're seeing with Google, with Amazon. And it's not just a media company or an advertising company. They're branching out a little bit. And I like what we see.
Yeah, that's how Zuckerberg sees it. And he's saying as much. He tells an interview, I think, as a backstop, even if for whatever reason we don't need all the compute ourselves or for any number of reasons, there's a very large amount of demand that I think you could sell it long term, like AWS or Azure or Google Compute. He sees what they've done. They don't have a cloud business at Meta, and he says, I want a piece of the pie. And you're buying into that vision.
I think it's a great idea. Now, the only thing that would scare me a little bit is why do they have extra compute? Because of all the spend that they've done. But I like the fact that they're branching out. I like the diversification. I like what they're doing with hardware. This is a neat company. I'm happy to be back in it.
Yeah,
they're on the verge of that bottom of the ninth inning comeback right here. I mean, they just needed to deliver and execute and finish the job here, but they're on the verge of doing it. I mean, from a PE standpoint, they're at the lowest level since late 22, early 23. So if they can deliver here, I mean, it could really be a great one.
I was going to come to you off the top.
SK getting rejected at 176 back to 174. They are really not letting this thing run as we're waiting for Elon. Micron now getting rejected, DRAM getting rejected. I mean, they're trying, but it's not fully there yet.
After the close, I said I bought in the open when the shares were down. I don't know if it was in the open just before, but the shares were down $8 or $9, which made no sense to me. So it was a good opportunity to pick up more. Now, this is a monstrous size position. I don't think I've ever had this size position, so I'm going to cut back on what I've added recently. But the reason I was perplexed is because let's look at it this way. Of the Mag 7, who are the visionaries there, right? The CEOs that have come into Apple, to Microsoft, to Alphabet, they've come in as managers. You've got Zuckerberg, who was a visionary, right? So that visionary, in my view, is going to be ahead of the others as they innovate with AI. And what he's saying is not that we bought too much, but that if you're worried about it, I'm looking at other uses for it, and I paid so low for it that I can sell it at a premium. So that's phenomenal. So one of the big, I'd say, clouds over the stock has been, okay, we don't see how Meta's going to make money off AI. Well, he's just told you how he's going to do it. And there's so much need for cloud. There's so much need for compute. They're going to be right there front and center. So look, I don't want to say he's playing chess and he's playing checkers because they're brilliant CEOs in their own rights. But that's why I bought it in addition to.
I think that chart, excuse me to interrupt you real quick. I think the chart is representative of investors trying to figure out what he is playing.
Yes.
Whether it's chess, checkers, or some other game. Well, that's what the chart certainly suggests.
I don't think that's what the chart. I think that chart has more to do with like the big flows in and out of tech, and I don't know that it's that specific. We added to this 2 weeks ago at $555, and we weren't saying like, oh, hey, investors have lost faith. We've said, hey, the broader markets pulled all of these back.
I think I'm going to stop you. I think there have undoubtedly been instances in time in this name where investors have questioned the faith and their belief in where they were deploying the amount of capital that they were spending. I don't think that's even debatable.
Okay, agree. And like, I've said many times way back when we were entering the stock several years ago, and it was like sub 100, and we were saying, hey, this year of capital efficiency is coming. Yeah, all of that. All I'm just saying is like the last 2 months, I don't know that it's as stock specific as it's been market specific because we've just seen huge swings.
Oh, sure. And just to be clear, I'm not addressing the last 2 months. I'm looking at that chart of a year to date at minimum. And
longer term, I agree.
We've been promoting this exclusive interview that Elon Musk was expected to give to our Julia Borston, which is now apparently no longer happening. I want to bring in Julia Borston, who's been in Sun Valley.
Oh, shit.
Julia, do you want to explain to us exactly what happened here as this was imminent?
Yeah, we were expecting to start an interview with Elon Musk right now at noon Eastern. We just got word that he has to postpone. Obviously, it would have been great to talk to him in his first TV interview since SpaceX went public. There is so much to talk about. I mean, look at today. SpaceX shares are trading below where the stock traded for its first trade. It's well off its highs since that IPO just a couple weeks ago. And we were really looking forward to hearing his thoughts on Grok 4.5, which just launched on Wednesday. He's been retweeting some information about how much more efficient Grok is than the rival platforms, and specifically around this question of cost. Now, of course, Scott, this comes on the heels of yesterday, my interview with Sam Altman, when he talked about OpenAI's new models and how much more efficient they are. We really seem to be in a moment right now where all the AI players are focused on cost efficiency. So we would be very curious to hear what Elon Musk says about that, and also how he answers the question about how they're managing their own costs as component costs go up and they're trying to deliver lower costs for their customers. So a lot going on here. But if we look at SpaceX shares now trading down nearly 3% today at $148. So Scott, we hope he will give us a new time for this interview, but we've just heard that he is postponing.
Okay, it's an unfortunate development for sure, but you'll let us know what happens from here. Julia, thanks so much. That's Julia Borston. We'll continue just to keep the ball in the air here for a moment.
I don't think it's anything that serious other than the timing got messed up. I don't think it was like, hey, I don't want to do an interview with you guys, but regardless, there's the red candle on SpaceX. Yeah, no Elon interview. I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon, but I mean, it was supposed to happen. So, either he got like, he's the richest man in the world. I'm assuming his time is very valuable. Maybe something came up at one of the companies and he had to postpone the interview. Last time he did the same thing. He did the interview, but they took a 3-hour break and then they continued the interview again. So I feel like it's that more than them deciding not to do the interview. All right, folks, that is what we got. SK, they are, I don't know what they're trying to do. It is stuck between 172 to 177. It's really not getting that crazy breakout post listing price, not post IPO price. Maybe if it breaks through 177, 178, you got the runway to 185-ish. That's kind of exactly what happened to SpaceX, but then it ended up coming back down. So you do have tons of sellers, even if you have tons of buyers here, which is keeping that price a bit more stable. Okay, I think that's it. I will be back Sunday for the futures. Again, there will not be a market close today. We'll be back Sunday for the futures. We'll see what happens with SK Hynix, with the memory trade. We'll see if this Elon interview ends up taking place. You got a bunch of stocks starting to reverse some of their lows of the day. So maybe Friday ends up green for some of these names. But outside of that, that is what we got for today. I'm curious what the reason is. Obviously, he wanted to do the interview if they gave them the okay to do the interview. There's got to be something more technical that's causing the delay. Basis points will be out at 6 p.m. today. So we'll have basis points officially back out. I will link the channel for those that are not following it. And then Sunday futures, we will be back. Word of the day. Let's see. We had that cynic doik thing yesterday, which I'm probably saying wrong again. Let's see what we get today. It will be on Spotify. I don't know why last week it didn't get uploaded, but the 2 episodes that didn't get uploaded, plus this one, it will be on Spotify. So we'll make sure we get it out there for the audio folks. I don't know why last week it just didn't end up getting uploaded. But yeah, we will get that up here today. All right, word of the day. Acribia, extreme precision, accuracy, and attention to detail. Her valuation model was built in remarkable acribia. Every assumption was carefully justified. Okay, let's see if we're saying this correctly. People heard of this word before? Acribia. Acribia. I've never heard this word before. Acribia. It is not John Ray. I meant to say John Ray yesterday. I ended up saying John Ray. I thought I didn't, but then we listened to the clip. Definitely sounded like John Ray. John Ray's our newest insider. If you were there, you know. Next time I say John Ray, the people who were there will know. All right. This is how you say this one.
Acribia.
All right. Not bad. Not bad. That is what we got for today. We'll be back on Sunday night. Thank you all, everyone, for being here again. I know we were off for a week. Happy to be back. Happy to get back into the grind of it. And yeah, I mean, it is a grind every day, 8 hours, just ingested in the financial news. And I love the grind, which is why we do this. But